Slowly opening his eyes, he saw only the lamps in the operating room, which were shining so brightly that it was hard to open his eyes. He grabbed his head because his head hurt so much. The guy didn't realize where he was, even assumed he had traveled through time. It was an operating room. He didn't understand why he was there and what the incomprehensible feeling of emptiness was inside him. It seemed that if you worked too hard, you could get an emptiness inside. Some inappropriate thoughts at the moment. His gaze drops to something nearby, then he notices the scalpel. Then he finally turns his attention and notices the numerous stitches. It looks like they cut out his kidneys. He calls for help and asks to call the police and make a complaint against them. He still needs to find his kidneys and regain his strength. But the strength was only enough to stand up, and then the guy falls to the floor without strength. Two doctors appear. One wonders to the other, shouldn't they have only taken the kidneys from the patient? But Dr. Lin replies that the situation is bad and kidney prices have dropped a lot, so they said the doctors can take whatever they can. They're going to gut the guy. The poor guy is lying on the floor and reaching for his phone. His mind is too fuzzy from the anesthesia. All he can think about are the cold words flying out of the doctors' mouths, with their temperature at 36 whole and 7/10 degrees. He also doesn't understand how he's still alive. When he picks up his phone, all he finds on it is some kind of game. He's about to die, and they're slipping him some game and won't let him make a call. This only makes the guy sad, and he realizes that his life is over. He's getting weaker. It looks like the wounds opened up. It seems he has even started to see his great-grandmother, how he doesn't want to die. Seeing his great-grandmother's smile and app, he doesn't have much choice. So he decides to give the app one last try. It's some kind of game called World of Wishes. So he clicks on the game icon and starts. Suddenly, a rather creepy picture appears in front of his eyes, and he is asked what his forbidden wish is. Dark figures open a coffin in which lies a withered woman. Death is unable to keep the desire away. Life cannot be stopped. From the woman's body, red threads manifest like blood vessels. On these threads hang bells. The guy is incredibly frightened by what he sees and doesn't understand what the hell is happening in front of him. Then a message appears on his phone saying that he will listen to God's blessing, and all he has to do is say yes. It's like signing a contract. The guy doesn't hesitate to press yes. He wants to live, he wants his kidneys to come back, and he regains his strength. Suddenly a seal appears, and someone with fangs and glowing eyes looked into his soul. After that, the guy woke up in the wishing world. He still didn't really understand what was happening to him. Was he caught up in some kind of game? It was good news to him that he was alive. However, after checking the place where the blood had been oozing from a while ago, he noticed the bad news. His organs were really gone. Everything was shrouded in fog, but from somewhere like someone's evil eyes, a light appeared. However, it turned out to be only a bus. When he looked in the other direction, he noticed some beauty in black silks. However, when the girl came closer and the light illuminated her face, he didn't think of her that way anymore. He only sighed and declared that he would take it back. She was just an ordinary girl in tights, but the girl was still looking at him questioningly for some reason, which made him assume that he seemed like he was supposed to be scared by the rules. The protagonist only exclaims that he has a void in his body instead of organs, so he has nothing to lose. He can't even lose his dignity because it no longer exists. And can this girl really kill him, already a dead man? The guy seems completely out of his mind. He even laughs because when he thinks about it, his empty chest gets wider. The girl wonders what the guy is talking about. Suddenly she invites the guy to get on the bus with her ethereal voice. When the bus doors open, a powerful red aura sweeps through. The guy agrees to see what's going on here. It seems he's still under anesthesia and all the recent events that happened to him are weighing heavily on his mind. So he smiles like a fool and thinks that the girl told the young gentleman to please get on the bus. The girl still doesn't understand what is even going on here. But the guy thinks she didn't hear and repeats that she told the young gentleman to please get on the bus. The girl is finally furious. Her face cracks. She shows her teeth and lets out a monstrously frightening scream. However, this did not scare the guy in the slightest, because there were no more organs left in his body. So did she really think she could scare him with her grimaces? So he attacks the monster, and then insists again that she politely invite him, her master, to get on the bus. The girl admits that she was too careless and therefore didn't dodge in time, but the guy again insists that she politely invite him, her master, to get on the bus. The girl clenches her teeth from the anger that has come over her. However, she finally gives in and says the cherished words, but in her own way. She calls the guy little instead of gentleman and asks him politely to get on the bus. The guy is fine with this option as well. Apparently his life has been too hard. As he walks through the door of the bus, he is suddenly wearing decent clothes. He's pretty happy that he's even dressed up. It was at this point that the gears of fate began their movement. The only thing that upset the guy was that the bus was somehow shabby, and everyone was sitting with some upset and creepy faces. When he saw a vacant seat next to a beautiful girl, he didn't hesitate to sit down next to her and asked what the girl's name was. A strange girl from the street followed the guy into the bus. She welcomes everyone to the world of desire and asks them to heed the whisper of a god. The protagonist only sighs sadly at this situation. The strange girl shows an even creepier grimace on her face and informs him that the god says that the test of all the bus passengers starts right now. At the same time, in reality, in an abandoned factory, it seems Dr. Lin has delivered some sort of mysterious cargo. A woman who just arrived by car wonders if he's taken everything. And when the doctor tells her not to worry and that he did everything himself, she thanks him for his work. He asks the woman to come to him again next time, but in the next instant, the nasty doctor is dead. The woman tells him not to do anything stupid next time. Then the mysterious woman opens a container and there is someone's heart. The woman doesn't seem to be human, as a huge tongue comes out of her mouth and she licks the heart. It seems to be her favorite treat. She hears the whispers of the gods. Meanwhile, inside the wishing world on the bus, the creepy girl on the bus announces that the passenger's first challenge is called elimination. She states that the task is quite simple, that in 10 minutes the bus will be traveling over an old bridge. But the bridge is too old and dilapidated from all that time, so it won't be able to support the weight of all the passengers on the bus. And if the bridge collapses and the bus falls, everyone on the bus will die. However, if just one person gets off the bus, then they will be able to pass over the bridge safely. Also, that the passengers can vote and choose who leaves the bus. Or they can force someone to get off the bus. All these words horrify many passengers and they start to panic. The creepy girl also adds that only those who pass the final test will be able to fulfill their wishes, and then informs that there are 5 minutes left to the bridge. One of the passengers wonders what will happen to whoever gets off the bus, and the girl with a creepy grimace informs that he will die. The protagonist thinks that death is not really that scary, and the scariest part is the phone, which it seems he didn't have time to format before he died. He doesn't even realize if he's dead or not. One pregnant girl asks not to be kicked out as her baby hasn't been born yet, so she can't die now. All the passengers are swept up in a flash with a desperate desire to save themselves. One admits he has cancer. Another has a son in intensive care, so he can't leave the bus. A third reports that his father is a firefighter and he got hurt badly when he was helping people, so the guy has to save him. All the passengers started to share their problems. The protagonist only thinks what kind of jesting arguments everyone has, and that compared to the others, his desire to get his organs back does not seem so trivial. A man with glasses and unshaven hair brings up the voting issue again. As time is limited, he decides to be sensible and eliminate the weakest contestant. So he votes for the pregnant woman. Many people pick up on this because everyone wants to be saved and only one person is needed. After all, this is a test. It remains to be seen what lies ahead for everyone. The girl cries from helplessness. She does not understand how they can do this to her because she is pregnant and whether the other passengers are people at all, since they do this. But all her pathetic attempts are cut short because this is a world of desires. All passengers have desires that they want to fulfill. If the girl thinks they are cruel, then what does she think of herself? After all, she gets to use her pregnancy to morally blackmail the other passengers, forcing others to die in her place. Isn't she cruel then too? The girl just cries in helplessness. The others are like a pack of street dogs, pouncing on the girl and supporting the decision to throw her off the bus. The girl begs not to be thrown out, but the others have already taken her under their arms and are trying to throw her off the bus. The creepy girl asks the others to decide faster, as they are almost there. However, the whole creepy smile thing doesn't really endear the guy to her. After all, the creepy girl looks like she's practically achieved her goal. He thinks it's some kind of devious plan, but the girl is already being thrown off the bus. However, at the last moment, the protagonist manages to grab the girl's hand and pulls her back onto the bus. He wonders if they shouldn't vote first, and that he hasn't actually voted yet. The others only informed him that his vote didn't matter since it was a general decision. Or maybe the guy just wanted to die instead of the girl and get off the bus himself. But the guy just boringly informs the others that they were wrong all along. Well, the guy needs to explain to everyone so they understand. The creepy girl said that someone has to leave the bus, but she didn't say it had to be any of the passengers, did she? But the creepy girl realized that it looks like her plan has been foiled, so she makes one last lunge. She says that the bridge is less than a minute away and they must kick out the first girl or everyone here will die. The protagonist notices that the creepy girl is in a panic, which means everything is right, he thought. The man with the glasses says it's the guy's test, but not his. But the protagonist advises him to think twice because the man in glasses claimed it was all for the team. So he vocalizes that it is necessary to exclude someone who is not the team. So it's time to get rid of the creepy girl and everyone else will stay on the team, and asks if the others agree or if they are against this, going, "This news made everyone very happy. After all, if they get rid of the NPCs, they won't have to kill anyone. How did they not realize this before?" And by a vote, they decide to throw the creepy girl off the bus. She even got all shook up. The main character asks the princess to leave the bus. The creepy girl declares that they can't force her off the bus. But the guy disappointedly reminds her that when he got on the bus, he slapped her. But the creepy girl didn't do anything to him for that prank. It turns out, if he assumed correctly, the reason is because of the rules of the game. Creepy girl can't seem to hurt the passengers. She is infuriated by the guy's words. She thinks he's insolent and tries to pounce on him. But the guy easily stops her and doesn't understand how such a brat can even be on the same bus with him, and then kicks the creepy girl off the bus just as they've just pulled onto the bridge. A voice on the bus announces that the next stop is Weeping Dusk. The man with glasses sighs in relief. Looks like they passed the first test. The other guy is relieved too, and thinks about how he should have thrown her off the bus from the beginning. Another man is already, after all, doesn't understand how a pregnant woman can be forced to go to certain death. But then all of a sudden, the guy's hand glows a golden color. It looked like he had been given the loot from the creepy girl in his hand. Phrases came into his head. "Boy, get on the bus, and you can get the power of evil spirits." And the phrase repeated. The protagonist didn't even realize what it was now. Evil spirits card. Boy, get on the bus, and you can get the power of evil spirits. Apparently that thing in his hands, which resembles a talisman, looks like an item of summoning. Even after that, he thinks none of this matters, because his life has always been filled with danger. So even such a gruesome trophy, it's the result of his accumulated virtue, and he deserves it. Suddenly, the whole bus shook like an earthquake, and the bus stopped. People don't understand what happened. Only the protagonist realizes that the second trial has begun. The bus stopped at the gate of some building, which at first glance was abandoned. When everyone leaves the bus after the protagonist, the pregnant girl suddenly discovers something under her feet. It turns out to be a doll whose face was significantly cracked, and instead of the usual limbs, they were metal. Meanwhile, in the real world, some girl is sitting in front of a mirror and doesn't understand why all this is happening to her. She had a chance to regain her former appearance, but that bastard stopped her. I think we can all guess who it is. She wishes the guy was dead, wishes he was dead, and keeps repeating it. The pregnant girl gets scared of the doll because it looks like there's a ghost in there. The protagonist comes over and kicks the doll aside and advises no one to touch it. He then says that it's just a rag doll. He takes matters into his own hands and commands everyone who was sitting in the back to get up one by one and get out without pushing. After a while, finally, everyone managed to leave the bus. And as soon as everyone left the bus, it immediately drove off. The pretty girl is as frightening as the others. She doesn't understand how they will get out if the bus leaves. The man with the glasses, not reassuring at all with his words that they don't know if they can get out alive yet, which scares the other guy because they could die here. Everyone found the place they arrived at creepy. No one wants to die here. Another beautiful girl comes out of the building and tells them that she is the director, and then orders everyone to follow her. She informs them that they have arrived just in time because the old people are already hungry. It all sounds strange. A beautiful girl with a fright grabs the protagonist's hand. He even blushes and tries to calm the girl, saying that it's normal to be afraid and that she has no reason to be so nervous. But when he looked at the ceiling, he was a little surprised because it looked like she was scared. There were hands and feet everywhere on the ceiling. The director informs him that each of the newcomers will be in charge of 3 rooms. On the door, they will find the instructions the children left behind. and also advises them to remember that to take care of the old people, they will follow the instructions clearly. And they hear creepy voices about how delicious the food is and how someone is hungry. The director informs them that if anyone breaks the rules, the consequences will not be long in coming. She informs that on the first floor, there is a communal kitchen in the extreme corner, and each room has its own restrooms. Everyone here is in a special situation, so are obliged to remember what she told them. So they reached the lobby of the nursing home under instructions. Here, the director took out sheets from her robe and told them that here was the assignment for the new arrivals and that they should start immediately, because they were already waiting for them. She also strongly recommends that as soon as it gets dark, everyone should stay in their rooms and not go out. And at night, she recommends that everyone not sleep too soundly and be vigilant. I wonder what will happen next in this story. Wang Ming complains that the director has told them so much, but hasn't even said a word about the salary. He was sent to deliver food to the elderly in room 203. There was a note stuck on the door of the room that the owner of the room was dumb, irritable, dirty, and useless. However, the only thing that bothers the guy is why there is no word on the fact that the volunteers will be paid. First, he had to go to the kitchen. According to his memory, the kitchen was on the first floor. As he walked down the dark hallway, creepy voices came from everywhere. These voices only talked about food, how good it tasted or smelled, and how they wanted more. The guy immediately savvy that in this ordeal, if they didn't take proper care of the old people, they would have a hard time. One guy was watching Liu prepare a meal and asked what he was doing. When the man with glasses didn't understand what the reason was, the man explained that he was misunderstood. He is from a new Oriental cooking school and can help cook anything. Looking at the food, Wang Ming decided to put all his thoughts aside, as it was now necessary to cook a well-done steak for the old man. The guy didn't stop. He wondered Liu if he had seen that there was blood flowing from under the door of room 101. Liu knew about it too. Since the task was to clean the room, it looked like someone had been eaten there. While Wang Ming was preparing the food, Liu asked the man to fry some meat for him and add more chili peppers, since the lady he is in charge of likes spicy things. This is not the first time Liu has encountered the world of desire, but each trial in this world is not like the previous one, so it becomes more and more difficult to avoid danger. At this time, Wang Ming is focused on food. After all, if you fry meat until golden on both sides, even the neighbor boy will drool. However, Liu would like to warn everyone that no matter whether it is a wish or a dream, if one manages to reach the end, he does not advise trying to raise the dead. The rest of us wonder why it shouldn't be done. Then Liu remarks that the dead can't come back to life. People can't be sure that the person they resurrect will remain the same as before. The man wonders that then, when trying to resurrect, it will only be a ghost. Liu notes that it's hard to say exactly what will happen, but one thing he knows for sure is that it won't be a person. Meanwhile, Wang Ming has finally prepared a meal for the old man entrusted to him. Liu, on the other hand, continues that only those who are close to death, or those whose desires are extremely, enter the wish world. He knows it will be hard for the rest of the participants to understand now, but he is obligated to say it. When the desire completely consumes them, death will seem like a relief. Wang Ming also thought carefully about these words. After a while, Wang Ming arrived at room 203. He knocked on the door and said that he had come to deliver food. However, after waiting for a few moments, he didn't hear anything. He then loudly announced that since no one was answering the door, he would come in himself. When he opened the door, he found himself in a rather gloomy room with a bed near the window. On the bed sat a completely withered old man. As soon as Wang Ming put the plate of food on the chair, the old man seemed to come to life and got up from the bed. Walking over to the table, the old man sniffed the food Wang Ming had just brought him. Then he pounced on the food like an animal, as if he hadn't been fed for a long time. Wang Ming advised the old man to take his time, as he might choke on it. Wang Ming even thought for a moment that this time he had gotten a simple task. He was even happy that he had hit the jackpot. However, at the same moment, the old man pierced his hand into the guy's chest. The old man's face instantly changed and now looked like a frightening monster, and he wailed about the disgusting food he had been brought. Wang Ming yelled at the old man. If the old man didn't like the steak, he should have said so, and then Wang Ming would replace it with intestines. Also, Wang Ming doesn't like the old man's hand on his heart right away. The guy complains that the old man has no manners. However, the old man was fabulously surprised. He started to go around the guy's insides in a haste, but there was nothing there. The old man was amazed how the kid couldn't have any internal organs. The old man was desperately trying to find anything, but Wang Ming thought that the old man was just deaf. The old man, on the other hand, wondered if the person in front of him was even a human. Wang Ming was getting annoyed that the old man was so persistent. He couldn't even think that even after death, the old man would remain empty. No matter whether he was alive or dead, everyone wanted a piece of him for some reason. Wang Ming is directly angry. Is he really Hello Kitty to the old man and the others? Wang Ming is annoyed that the old man is being picky. He grabs the old man's head and slams it against the floor. He resents the old man picking at the food he gave him. Wang Ming slams the old man to the floor again and asks him if he is going to eat his food. The guy is incredibly outraged by all the old man's actions. Did the old man really think that he would put up with all the old man's antics? He even wonders why the old man is still not asking for mercy. The old man tries to say something, but it sounds inaudible. Wang Ming absolutely does not understand a word of what the old man wanted to say to him. Suddenly, a girl comes into the room. She wanted the guy to help her. What the girl found in the room shocked her incredibly. Wang Ming dealt harshly with the old man. All the walls of the room were stained with blood, and the girl only looked at Wang Ming sitting beside the old man in shock. The girl was speechless after seeing all of this. When Wang Ming turned to the side of the girl, her legs couldn't hold up due to fear, and she fell to the floor. Grabbing the old man, Wang Ming complains that the assignment says to take care of the old man. But for some reason, the guy wants to crush the old man's head. A frightening aura is hovering around the guy like this. While Wang Ming was holding the old man's hair, the old man was muttering something inaudible. The evil spirit was whispering to the guy to kill the old man. Suddenly, the evil spirit seemed to vaporize, much to the guy's puzzlement. Wang Ming complained that the evil spirit only lasted for 3 minutes, and what a weakling he was. However, he wasn't upset and decided to use the card again and summon the evil spirit again. He even got into a victory pose. At this moment, the stupid guy's head was struck by the realization that at least 3 hours should pass between summoning the evil spirit. His face covered in cold sweat, and he began to complain that it took too long to roll back the ability. Wang Ming reaches out his hand to the old man and decides to explain to the old man that everything that happened earlier was a misunderstanding. Suddenly, the old man transformed back to his original state and once again mumbled something inaudible. Wang Ming was surprised that the old man had returned to his original state. He even thought that perhaps it was because he had frightened the old man. With a threatening aura, Wang Ming moved towards the old man and asked if he would eat his food or not. The old man got all shook up, and with a noticeable leap, he grabbed whatever was in the plate and started shoving it into his mouth. The guy even praised the old man. However, Wang Ming notes that the evil spirit card seems to be able to influence a person's mind. Otherwise, he wouldn't have such crazy thoughts, such as wanting to split someone's head open. He doesn't know what will happen next, and so he decides to keep the card as a trump card and not tell anyone about it. The guy grabs the pregnant woman and tries to drag her inside the room. Suddenly, the girl opens her eyes, and the first thing that greets her is Wang Ming's face behind her back. Wang Ming tries to pull the pregnant woman into the room, but the woman is terrified and asks for someone to help her. However, Wang Ming covers her mouth with her hand and asks her not to be afraid and to listen to him carefully. Wang Ming tells her a great story and confesses that he is actually from the government. He reminds her that some things are better kept secret. Still gagging her, he informs the woman that he is a good man, so he is counting on the woman's silence. The pregnant woman has figured it all out and informs him that she won't say anything to anyone. As it happens, goodness is repaid with goodness, so the guy wonders if the woman needs help. The woman begs the guy to help. She agrees to do anything the guy asks as long as he helps her. Wang Ming isn't that risky. He remembers that this place is pretty dangerous and he can't use the evil spirits card right now, so he needs to be careful. The guy agrees to help in any way he can, but he doesn't want to promise anything, and he doesn't intend to risk his life. The woman is all in tears. She is grateful and on it. Wang Ming then wonders what her assignment is and asks her to tell him. The woman tells him that her assignment is to wash the old man's back. Afterward, she begins her story. An hour later in the lobby was incredibly crowded. People were complaining about the assignment. One told how a crazy grandmother didn't like the way he cleaned up and bit off his ear. Another man needed to massage an old man's back, but she was covered in pus. Another man complained that if he hadn't run away quickly, he would have been eaten for sure. The people were amazed at such an ordeal. Suddenly, Liu came out in front of them and shocked everyone with his appearance. People wondered if he was all right. Liu hurriedly reassured them that the old woman had bitten off his leg, but at least he was still alive. The trial had just started, and already so many people had already died. Suddenly, people remembered the rude guy from the bus and they wondered where he was. Someone assumed that he had died already too. Suddenly, the principal came out and yelled at people why they were all crowded in the lobby. There was blood all over her clothes and she was wiping the blood off her face. The principal asked if they had completed their assignments. Everyone immediately noticed the principal's appearance and assumed that she had eaten someone too. One guy wondered to her what would happen if they didn't finish their assignments. Will they really all be eaten? He doesn't understand how the assignment can even be completed. But the principal disappointedly informs him that even if they don't finish the task, it doesn't matter. Licking her lips, the woman informs him that the volunteers are so-so workers, but their taste is definitely excellent. People are shocked. How can a person say such a thing? The director didn't look like a human being at all. Suddenly, Wang Ming and the pregnant woman caught the principal's attention. She wondered what they were up to. The guy sarcastically notes in his thoughts that they are gathering information, but certainly not admiring the principal. Out loud, however, the guy starts sucking up to the principal. He says that he only came to see the principal. Wang Ming notes that the beauty of the principal had them so enamored that they couldn't move. But now everything is fine. The pregnant woman was surprised because it seems the guy was really from the government, so he wasn't picky at all. The director is happy to hear that. She notices that the guy has a tongue. The director says that she is only here to remind her that if anyone fails to do their assignments or gets complaints, she will have to act according to the rules. It was still 2 hours until dark, so the principal recommended that those who hadn't completed their assignments yet should hurry up and not keep the old people waiting. After that, the principal leaned over to Wang Ming's ear and informed him that she would find him tonight. Wang Ming is upset by this turn of events. He didn't mean what he said, and the principal believed his words. He even wonders if he set off some mechanisms with his speech. He doesn't want to be the rider of an evil spirit. When the director left, many people rushed to the guy. They asked him that since he wasn't hurt, he had completed his task. Wang Ming just waved him off, saying that he was just lucky. Other people were surprised by his luck. They thought that the guy had accomplished his task quite easily. Everyone wondered if the guy had noticed any game mechanisms that made it easier to get through, and if so, they asked to share that information. Liu, as always, is at the forefront here. He reminds them that at the end of the day, they are all human and should help each other out. People start to press Wang Ming's pity. After all, he saved a pregnant woman, which means he shouldn't just stand by and watch the rest of the people die. The man wonders what Wang Ming has learned, since there are only 2 hours left, and he asks to tell them. Wang Ming easily notices that the man in the suit is really good at manipulation. He remembered how the man had brought Wang Ming to the forefront last time in the same situation with Yun Li. People had already started to actively push the guy through, stating that he shouldn't be so selfish. After all, this was everyone's concern. Wang Ming is not made of the same mold, so he immediately stops these attempts and tells everyone to shut up. He even declares that he hates moral blackmail more than anything else. He then grabs the pregnant woman by the arm and is about to leave, as people have no leads. Liu stands his ground and is not about to give up. He states that even though he doesn't have any leads, doesn't the brute want to know more about the wish world? Apparently this information seems to be valuable as Wang Ming stops. He asks Liu if he is willing to share the information. Liu informs him that he is willing to tell Wang Ming about the last time he was a wish world. In return, he asks that Wang Ming tell what he has learned. Liu notes that this is very valuable information, and it will help Wang Ming fulfill his wish. Liu knows how to get his way. He's a skillful manipulator. He states that it was during his last game that he saw the true essence of the wish world. I wonder what the essence of the wish world Liu saw. Will this prove to be useful information, or is Liu lying to save his life? After that, Liu started his story, and a lot of people can be seen kicking and beating him with a bat. The leader of the attackers informed Liu that this is just a reminder for now, but if Liu doesn't pay in the next one, he will have his leg broken. His name is Liu Jiangui. Because of his addiction to gambling, he owed a large sum of money at a high interest rate. The debt collectors often beat him to a pulp. On one such day, he saw a phone with a mysterious offer. Later, he entered the wish world and underwent tests. At that time, his greatest wish was for money. He wanted $1 million. When he returned to the real world, his wish actually came true. Suddenly, Liu's phone received an alert that a payment of 1 million yuan had been deposited into his bank account, which shocked Liu. But as it turned out, it wasn't that simple. Because his father fell from the construction site where he was working and fell into a coma, Liu was actually compensated exactly 1 million yuan. His wish had actually come true. But at what cost? The price for the fulfillment of his wish was his father. Liu even reports that his father is still lying in the hospital. Because of his wish, his father had fallen into a coma. Even now it was upsetting Liu. From this story, Wang Ming emphasized the main point. Apparently, the wish is not just magically granted, but realized in some reasonable way. Wang Ming's wish is to get his organs back. This could also mean that he might get rotten organs. Also, some kind of accident could happen, and it would take the organs away from the person to whom they were transplanted. Wang Ming concludes that in granting his wish, he must try to avoid dire consequences. Liu desperately asks Wang Ming for help. Each of the people who arrived are responsible for 3 wards. Liu lost his leg back in the first one, that's why he is asking for help. Wang Ming doesn't think that just beating up an old man, like in his case, will work. If he tells Liu about this method, it will only lead to Liu's death. Wang Ming eventually admits that, as he said, he really didn't learn anything about this game. Wang Ming grabs the pregnant woman by the hand, wishes everyone good luck, and leaves. Liu tries desperately to cling to his life, but he can't catch up to the guy. Wang Ming decides that the best option is to return to the ward, interrogate the old man, and try to get some clues. I wonder what clues Wang Ming will get, and if he will return Liu's debt, or if Liu will be eaten by then. Back in the room, they find the old man hiding behind his bed. The pregnant woman asks the guy why he didn't help the others, since he's from the government. Wang Ming notices that all these people ruthlessly wanted to throw the woman off the bus, and she stood up for such people. The guy doesn't understand how the life of people from the government is different from that of ordinary people. Besides, he's just pretending. That's the lie. Touching her belly, the woman admits that if she really had to choose who would leave the bus, she would probably make the same choice as the other people on the bus. She understands other people because at the end of the day, she too has a wish that must come true. The woman says that her husband was a firefighter, but he recently died on a rescue mission. All they have is this baby, which serves as a reminder of her husband. Even though the doctor says the child is not growing well and will not survive, the woman still wishes to protect this child. She naively assumes that as long as she can handle the ordeal, then everything will be fine. Wang Ming did not bother to dissuade her from this. He did not expect the child to turn out to be the son of a hero. Wang Ming asks the old man to come over to him as he wanted to ask something from the old man. The old man was scared that something was about to happen to him again. However, Wang Ming just put down the sheet and asked the old man to calmly confess why he was resisting. The guy was also curious as to why the old man attacked him. All he wanted was for the old man to write it all down on the sheet, which he held out to the old man. The old man immediately wrote down on the sheet that he didn't like fried meat. Looking at the piece of paper with what was written on it, Wang Ming recalls that the principal said that the information on the room doors was left by their children. The old man, on the other hand, reported that he didn't like fried meat on the contrary. Wang Ming got angry because it seems like it was all a trap. The woman still can't understand what's going on. The guy immediately admits that he found a clue, but he can't be sure it will work. The woman is happy with this information as well. She decides to use this clue because if it wasn't for Wang Ming, she would have died long ago. Then the guy tells her that the information left on the door is wrong. If you do the opposite, you can avoid danger. The woman is grateful and decides to try to do it. As the woman left, Wang Ming pondered a wish. If what Liu Jiangui said was true, then it was not a fact that the woman's child would survive. And if the child survives, but it is unknown if the child will be healthy. He decides to think about what to do at night. Wang Ming thinks the principal is attractive, but after all, she is not a human. So he has doubts. He thinks that humans can't do something like that. Well, at least they shouldn't. 2 hours had passed. He had long since kicked his grandfather off the bed and was lying on the bed himself. He wondered if Yun Li had succeeded in her task. Suddenly, the door opened and the principal entered the room. The old man immediately crouched down on one knee in front of her and invited her to gesture to enter the room. Wang Ming thought of even pretending to be dead, so surprised was he that the principal had come. The principal doesn't understand why the guy is still lying down and doesn't want to go with her. Wang Ming knows that although he can use the evil spirit card, the principal is much stronger than the old man. If he can't defeat the principal, he's definitely finished. He didn't know what he should do at a time like this. To protect his dignity, he decided that he must outsmart the woman at all costs. Wang Ming turned on all his acting skills. He showed the woman his scars and told her that bad people had robbed him of his dignity, and there was nothing more he could do. The woman looked at the scars and thought it was lightning. Wang Ming wondered how she could mistake his scars for such a thing. The principal got angry over something like that. She even called the guy a useless creature. So the principal informed Wang Ming that the volunteer who was supposed to be in charge of room 401 and the old man from that room were missing. The principal tells the guy to go and find them before nightfall. Wang Ming doesn't understand why he has to leave the room. After all, the principal had previously told him to stay in the room after dark. She also told him to listen to advice and eat well. The principal is not in the mood to listen to something like this. Wang Ming immediately corrects himself and cheerfully informs her that he's always enjoyed looking for people, ever since he was a kid, so he's a master at it. The woman cheerfully points out not to let the guy worry because she won't leave him without thanks. When the principal was leaving, Wang Ming trails off and informs her that the reward is not the most important thing, as he just wants to ease the principal's burden. As far as he could remember, room 401 was supposed to be handled by the girl in white golfers who was sitting next to him on the bus. He hadn't seen her in the lobby tonight. He didn't fully understand what the principal wanted him to do, find people or help with the bodies. As he remembered, in martial arts, speed was the one thing that could not be defeated. That was why he decided to move towards his goal no matter what, and took off running down the hallway. As he ran down the stairs, he noticed that the footsteps were too loud in this place. This made him think that this way he might attract the attention of some deranged person. However, he noticed that he was wearing sneakers, so his footsteps should be almost impossible to hear, and the sounds were coming from the second floor. As soon as he realized that they were heels, he felt a bloodthirsty aura behind him at the same moment, which informed the guy that he was busted. It was as if something was glued to his back. Wang Ming thought it was a ghost. The guy didn't have any organs, so he thought he shouldn't be frightened. At the same moment, the ghost licked the guy's cheek with its long tongue, as if tasting its victim. Wang Ming is not going to give in to fear and thinks about his escape plan. He tries to escape from the ghost by humming that he is afraid of ghosts, but they have never hurt him yet. Without stopping, he also chants that he is not afraid of humans, but those have hurt him badly. Suddenly, the ghost twists her leg. She asks the guy to wait for her, but Wang Ming doesn't stop. The ghost is not going to give up either and is already ordering the guy to stop. Wang Ming even thought that the ghost wants to climb on his back to carry her. However, the guy is unwilling to just stand there and wait for his death, so he decides to use his trump cards up his sleeve to scare the ghost away. He doesn't understand how the demon dares to show off in front of a true professional and decides to use the great heavenly dragon to make the ghost pay. Wang Ming was frightened because when he was about to use the great heavenly dragon, he noticed that he couldn't move his arm. The ghost had a dead grip on his hand, and the guy's hand became numb from the cold. At the same moment, a woman appeared near the guy's face and inquired about what he had just tried to do. Wang Ming tried to guffaw and that the woman was just hearing things. The woman asked the guy to wait for her as she was almost done connecting. However, the guy was already unstoppable. Wang Ming ran and shouted that he was waiting for the madam. Even though his arm was numb and using the card would not work, he was still able to run. Wang Ming even notes that Zhou Shuren, a Chinese writer and critic, once said, "If you can't beat them, outsmart them. If you can't outsmart them, run." Wang Ming followed this advice and ran as fast as he could up the stairs. When he reached the top of the stairs, he noticed that the cold sensation in his arm had gone, although he even thought that he might have lost his arm. Suddenly, on the stairs, Wang Ming saw the ghostly arm and legs, only now noticing that the woman seemed to have split apart. Immediately, he remembered the woman's words when he escaped from her. When he first went up to the third floor, he only heard footsteps. As he approached the fourth floor, a tongue and a hand appeared in front of him. The puzzle was now put together. The ghost's body parts were scattered around the hallway, and she was picking them up piece by piece. The woman asked the guy to wait for her to put all the pieces together, which meant that once she did, the guy was finished. He had been so scared because of that ghost, and now he was all excited to see what would happen next. Walking through the fourth floor, he was greatly surprised that there was no blood anywhere. It seemed to the guy that everything was much better on the fourth floor than on the second floor. Finally, he got to the door he needed, room number 401. The door said that his father has Alzheimer's and likes to play hide and seek. Father always hides behind the curtains. If someone starts playing with father, father never gets tired of it. The note said that playing hide and seek with father is dangerous, so his family doesn't allow it. Wang Ming was surprised to learn about hide and seek. Considering what he had learned from the old man, the information from the note on the door should be taken exactly the opposite. So in order to complete the task in chamber 401, it was necessary to play hide and seek with the old man. Opening slowly, he inquired if there was anyone in the room, but there was silence in response. Looking at the window, Wang Ming immediately noticed that according to the note, the old man was hiding behind the curtains, but there were no curtains on the window, so he didn't realize where he should look for the old man. Suddenly, Wang Ming heard a noise, so he looked out into the hallway to see what was going on. He saw the girl he was supposed to save running straight towards him and asking for help. The girl ran up out of fear and hugged the guy. Wang Ming wondered from the girl what happened and where the old man the girl was responsible for had gone. The girl was already crying because the old man decided to play hide and seek with her, but the instructions on the door said that playing hide and seek with the old man is very dangerous. Wang Ming can't figure out what's wrong. In fact, playing hide and seek with the old man is the solution to the task, so he doesn't understand why the girl was so scared. Wang Ming has a lot of thoughts on his mind, because maybe his guess was wrong and Yun Li is already dead. Wang Ming asks the girl what happened in detail. A few hours ago, the girl fearfully asked the old man if he had hidden himself well. It turned out that the old man hid behind a curtain and the girl could easily find him. When the girl found the old man wanted to play hide and seek again. When she found the old man the second time, he was still hiding behind the curtain. There were already 2 pairs of feet behind the curtain. Wang Ming did not understand what she meant. Then the girl reports that the third time there were already 3 people behind the curtain. With every game, another person appeared behind the curtain, and now there was no space left behind the curtain. A large number of old men were standing behind the curtain in a row. The girl is too scared, she even suggests to Wang Ming that she will become his girlfriend. Since he came here and found her, she thinks he likes her. She hysterically remarks that since she has become his girlfriend, the guy can't ignore her. However, Wang Ming stops the girl and informs her that he only came here on the principal's assignment. He didn't intend to be a hero at all and save the young maiden in distress. The guy decides to check what is going on behind the curtain and asks the girl to be more attentive. The girl immediately lets go of the guy's hand. She selfishly declares that Wang Ming is her boyfriend and is obligated to save her, even if it means dying, and then pushes the guy into the room. The guy didn't expect such a setup from the girl at all. As she runs away, the girl apologizes to the guy. She didn't mean to hurt the guy, and she just doesn't want to die. Wang Ming sadly pointed out that even a pregnant woman wasn't afraid to complete the task, and this woman just wants the guy to pass the test for her. Pulling out the card, the guy complains that women only slow down the speed of snatching weapons. Deciding not to procrastinate any longer, he walked over to the window and opened the curtains. Behind the curtains were some hippo-like men in suits. The owner of the chamber happily announced that the guy had found him. Wang Ming was surprised at what happened, as this hippo must have eaten a lot of souls. The hippo informs that it's his turn to look for the guy, but Wang Ming doesn't agree to play this game with him. Then the hippo immediately starts counting down from 3 to 1 and reports that he has found the guy. Wang Ming was very angry and wasn't going to give up so easily. He immediately uses the evil spirit armor to confront the hippo. Wang Ming thinks that he will be able to deal with 10 hippos at once. As soon as the hippo announces that it has found the guy, Wang Ming immediately slams the hippo's face into the floor. The other hippos were not left out and kept shouting that they had found the guy. Wang Ming also refused to give up and confronted the hippos. One of the hippos managed to sneak up behind the guy and impaled him with his hand. This made Wang Ming even more angry, as he hated getting his body pierced the most. The guy thinks that because the hippo made such a hole in his body, then the hippo deserves to die. The hippos kept shouting out how they found the guy in a game of hide and seek. After a while, all the hippos were already lying at the guy's feet, and he was trying to catch his breath. It had been a whole 3 minutes of battle, although he thought that 3 minutes wasn't long for a real man, but at least he managed to get rid of all the hippos before the card's time expired. At the same moment, something strange happened. Some kind of red aura went into the hippos' mouths. And then all the hippos he had previously defeated rose up again, and it was as if the battle had never happened. Wang Ming complained that it was so unfair and unfair, he even wanted to file a complaint against the game through the admins. While under the gazes of all these hippos, Wang Ming asks that they pay attention to how beautiful the moon is today, and that they don't need to fight. It dawned on the guy in that second that the old man in his chamber had attacked him as the blood moon rose in the sky. The principal advised that after darkness fell, stay in the rooms and don't go out anywhere, and also that the players should not sleep too soundly at night. Wang Ming now realized that the woman had said this on purpose. He realized the danger was the strange glow of the moon. The guy noticed that there were no curtains in the rooms, so if he followed the principal's advice and hid in the rooms, the old men in the rooms would go crazy being under the hypnosis of the blood moon and attack the players. Only now the guy realized that the principal didn't care about the fate of people at all, and she just wanted to feed all the players to the old men. He wasn't going to just sit there and give up like that, obeying the principal's words. Wang Ming slipped past all the behemoths and rushed straight to the window, trying to close the curtains. As soon as he did so, all the hippos began to dissolve one by one. The curtains were closed, and the old man was no longer under the influence of the blood moon, so all the copies dissolved, leaving behind only puddles on the floor. Finally, the original old man appeared, who was incredibly happy about this outcome. Wang Ming walks up to him and informs him that it's too late, so he advises the old man to get a good rest and they will play hide and seek again tomorrow. The old man notes that the guy can't lie to him. Wang Ming is glad that he managed to manage this task, so leaving he asks the old man to wait for him in the room. The guy grabs a curtain, sneaks to the stairs and sits there, covering the old man with the curtain. Since he had managed to find the missing old man from room 401, he could now explain everything to the principal. And since the blood moon hadn't disappeared yet, he decides to wait on the stairs for now so that he wouldn't encounter any dangers. Besides, the evil spirit card would only be available to him in 3 hours. That was the reason why he decided to wait on the stairs for a while. Suddenly, Wang Ming saw the girl who had framed him earlier crawling up the stairs. She called the guy scum, because he is her boyfriend and is obligated to save her. A ghostly hand grabbed the girl's head, and the girl continued to sob with fright. Looking at the bloody trail that was left by the girl, Wang Ming notes that he might have helped the girl, but right now he couldn't use his card, so there was nothing he could do about it. Besides, it was the girl's own fault for deciding to run away alone. 3 hours later, he could finally use the evil spirit card again. Only then did he get up from his seat and look at what was left of the girl. He had to rely only on his luck. After a while, he returned to his original room 203. Upon entering the room, he noticed that the elderly people in this nursing home were becoming insane under the influence of the blood moon. But that old man he had beaten up earlier was fine. Wang Ming was very tired, so he immediately lay down on the bed. He has the old man right that he wants to eat tomorrow. He even assures that it's all for the old man's good, so that things won't happen like their original meeting. The old man blinked and started writing down what was needed. He smilingly showed Wang Ming a piece of paper saying that he would like raw meat. Then the guy decides that tomorrow he will bring the old man a huge plate of gut sashimi. The guy even wonders how the old man came to this diet in the first place. The old man confesses that he doesn't really like raw meat, but the old man's son likes it. Only at this point does Wang Ming realize that the old man left the meat in the room because he was saving it for his son. However, all that meat had already rotted away. The old man was leaving all this meat because he didn't know when his son would return. Wang Ming even felt sorry for the old man. The old man had been waiting for his son so long, not even realizing that the son had left the old man to die in this strange nursing home. That was why the meat that the old man had left for his son was lying in this room day after day, acquiring a horrible rotten smell. Wang Ming couldn't help but wonder, is this the world of desire? Guy thought that being torn between love, hate, and obsession was too cruel for the world of desire. This was how the first night in the Bloody Corner nursing home ended. In the morning, all the survivors gathered in the lobby. Liu notices that there were fewer dead people last night. In the crowd of survivors, Wang Ming notices that the pregnant girl also managed to survive in this strange place. Yun Li thanks the guy for his help because if it wasn't for his clues, she would be dead. The guy remarks that it was just a guess. Yun Li wonders if she can share that guess with others. Wang Ming, on the other hand, remarks that the girl checked the hunch herself during her assignment, so if she wants to share it with others, she doesn't need to ask his permission. Yun Li was about to do something about it. However, at that moment, the principal appeared. She noticed that there were too many survivors left. After that, the principal tossed all the tasks into the air again and wished to see everyone again. She then beckoned Wang Ming to come over to her, which he was clearly not expecting. Even though the volunteer in charge of room 401 died, the principal noted that the guy managed to find the old man, so she thinks the guy did a good job and decides to reward him. Wang Ming keeps trying to be polite or servile to the principal, so he notes that he is honored to remove some of the principal's burden. The principal pulled him to her and told him that since he was so happy, she would come to him at night. Wang Ming doesn't understand why the world is so harsh on him. After all, he only got rid of the principal's intentions and it turned out to be a failure. When Wang Ming opened the envelope that the principal handed him, he was very surprised because there was money in the envelope. He was surprised at this because he didn't know that there was money in this world. Liu takes a look at the money, tells him that it is the currency in the wishing world. The last time he was in the wishing world, he saw others using it, and the currency even had its own name, wishing coins. This was strange, considering that it wasn't coins, but paper bills. Wang Ming was even a little surprised by this name, because in his opinion, it was too beautiful a name for money from the underworld. Liu was shocked by such treatment of coins. He asks the guy not to underestimate these wish coins. He even tells him that the players who participated in the trials killed each other to get their hands on 10 of these coins, and in the end, 3 of those players died. That's why he wonders what the guy did last night that the principal gave him so much money. Wang Ming made no secret of it and revealed with obvious irritation that the principal had asked to go to the 4th floor and help her find the missing old man and the volunteer from room 401. Someone wondered if this was a secret mission, and someone in the audience was too scared. He couldn't believe that someone would risk going alone to the 4th floor at night. Such a thing is only possible if the guy knows something about this game. Liu asks everyone to be quiet. He recalls that he shared some information about the wishing world with Wang Ming yesterday. However, if that wasn't enough, he had something else. He would reveal it in exchange for the clue Wang Ming had found. Wang Ming had already guessed about it, that Liu was still aware of something else about this world. Liu asks the others if they are all from Linhai. Then he concludes that they all came to this place from this city. Liu believes that Wishing World mainly selects people by region. The puzzle in Yun Li's mind started to come together. She remembered the guy's story told on the bus. Yun Li decides to clarify that since they are all from Linhai, it turns out the guy's father was injured in the fire at the Central Mall. The boy confirms the girl's assumptions, although he doesn't know how the woman found out. Yun Li tells him that her husband's name is Chin Hong. The guy immediately knows it's about Captain Chin and that he died in that tragedy. Wang Ming informs the guy that he has a family of heroes, so he will be fine too. Liu even offers Wang Ming 100,000 yuan as soon as they get out of here. He immediately gives his phone number. All this to exchange for a clue known to Wang Ming. The others didn't hesitate either, and someone offered 300,000 yuan. Someone even offered 500,000 yuan. A brilliant plan emerged in Wang Ming's mind. He originally wanted Yun Li to tell everyone about the clue, but there was no way he expected this turn of events. Wang Ming is even amused. He asks the others to forget about the whole money nonsense. Since they are so sincere in asking him, he decides to tell them about what they managed to find out last night. After sharing the clue with everyone, Wang Ming went to the new room. His task today was to clean room 204. The note on the door said that the mother has Alzheimer's disease, so she forgets everything, including going to the toilet. Despite her crazy character, she is completely harmless, so the person asked that the volunteers not be afraid. Wang Ming immediately noticed this characteristic of the woman, especially calls Pro not to be afraid. The guy opened the door, however, there was no one in the room. After taking just a step into the room, the guy felt a bloodthirsty and frightening aura in the room. A woman grabbed the guy by his neck and started strangling him. She was wondering where her daughter was because she wanted to see her daughter so badly. Wang Ming, on the other hand, advises her to calm down first. A frightening old woman with a changed appearance approached the guy. He notices that the old woman is too strong for her age, and if she continues to choke him like this, his neck will break. The old woman wishes to see her daughter, and if the daughter doesn't show up, she will kill the guy. Wang Ming was too surprised that the old woman attacked him as soon as he entered. Suddenly, he remembers that the old woman forgets everything, including going to the bathroom. In that case, it's unclear what the old woman even remembers. Wang Ming decides to pull off an ingenious plan and pretend that he is the daughter who came to visit her mother. The old woman looks at him suspiciously and wonders if Xiao Fang is in front of her. Wang Ming continues to pretend that he is the old woman's daughter. He even psychologically pressures the woman that she seems to have forgotten what her daughter looks like. The woman wonders how she couldn't recognize her daughter and asks her daughter not to cry. These words made the woman return to her human form. She looked at her daughter's chest, and it seemed to her that it used to be very different there. The new daughter points out that it's okay to do that now. Not only does the daughter wear beautiful clothes, it also symbolizes world peace. Men who pay attention to this are definitely perverts. The daughter asks her mom to come inside for starters and then wonders why her mom was so fierce with her. Also, the daughter was offended that her mother reacted to her like that. The woman's face was covered in cold sweat, and she admitted that she thought it was the helpers from the hospital and not her daughter. Wang Ming immediately realized that the woman was talking about the trial participants, who were the helpers. The daughter tries to dissuade her mother that there is nothing wrong with the helpers and that they are quite good people. However, at the same moment, the woman's face changed dramatically again, and she declared that her daughter had been deceived. The daughter does not realize in what way she has been deceived. The old woman admits that the hospital aides regularly beat people up, and they don't feed her at all. And also the woman notices that the facility injects something into some old people, after which the old people die. Wang Ming is trying to get to the bottom of the problem. Based on the woman's words, the elderly believe that volunteers are the danger. It was quite valuable information. Mum asks her daughter to take her home. The woman even promises not to pee her pants anymore. The daughter promises to take her mother home as soon as she is done here. First, the daughter needed to clean up the room. This made the woman smile, for she knew her daughter was so understanding. The second night in the bloody nursing home came. Wang Ming saw the principal again and inquired about what needed to be done again. The principal says that a shipment of goods has arrived, so she tells the guy to go to the entrance and carry the goods to the 5th floor. However, she tells the guy to remember that whatever happens, he must not open the boxes. As the principal leaves, Wang Ming stares disappointedly in her wake. She had so threatened to come to him at night, and it turned out to be all just for another assignment. Wang Ming didn't understand what was wrong with the woman, as this was not like her at all. However, as it turned out, the woman was interested in what the helpers were up to. She doesn't understand how it happened that no one died during the night. Walking down to the entrance of the nursing home, Wang Ming found a man stacking boxes at the entrance. Wang Ming reports that he doesn't recognize the man, so he wonders who he is. Wang Ming also wonders what the man does for a living. The man, on the other hand, reports that he can't say anything. Wang Ming understands perfectly well that the man is just a driver and so doesn't demand much from him. He's just curious about what's in the boxes. However, the man seems like he was going to leave all these questions unanswered. Wang Ming tries every possible way to stop the driver and asks if he wants a cigarette. The man stopped and then approached the guy and asked where the cigarettes were, to which Wang Ming pointed to the man's pocket and asked for one from his pocket. This made the driver cry, for Wang Ming had cheated him. Wang Ming threw one of the bills that the principal had given him earlier into the driver's face. He wasn't going to let the driver just run away, but wanted him to answer his questions. The driver, on the other hand, looked admiringly at the bill he had just received. He immediately informs Wang Ming that it was all a misunderstanding. Wang Ming only points out that the saying, "money can make even the devil spin the millstones for you," was not lying. The driver understands all that Wang Ming wants to know: what is inside the boxes that the driver delivered. The driver informs him that the boxes are actually nothing special, just some solutions, mostly sedatives. Wang Ming wonders what the sedative is for. The driver reports that the sedative is for naughty old people who become calm after the injection. Wang Ming finds confirmation of what the woman in room 204 said. If she was telling the truth, this is the way to take a person's life. It's actually a pretty bleak place. The story seems fun at first, but as it progresses, it becomes more and more devastating. The story is frightening not because of its scary, mutated faces or even the loss of life, but because of the horrible nature of humans. Even if you only take just the latest stories from the nursing home, the father waited for his son's arrival and even saved meat for him, although it was actually the son who sent the father to this nursing home. Also the woman in room 204 who begged her daughter to take her out of the nursing home. More on how inevitably people age and develop horrifying diseases like Alzheimer's, and that's just a small part of it. What do you think of this story? What do you think happens next in this story? The guy notices that at such a dangerous time, the principal has asked him to pick up the boxes. He even assumes that the woman wants them to do all the dirty work. The driver wonders if the guy is new, since he hasn't seen him before. He is surprised that a guy comes to a place like this at night to pick up goods. The driver wonders if the guy is afraid of running into that dangerous thing. Wang Ming asks him what the thing in question is. After recalling the horrors that happened because of that dangerous thing, the driver notices that he is talking too much. And after all, this is classified information. However, at that moment, green bills appear in front of the driver's face. Wang Ming notes that he didn't hear what the man said and asks him to repeat it. Tears start pouring from the driver's eyes, and he immediately changes his mind. The driver notices that he said that even though the information is secret, he and the guy are buddies, so the driver will tell everything he knows. Once upon a time, there was a little girl who lived in a nursing home and was very caring. To earn money and take care of her sick mother, she did not hesitate to give up a bright future, choosing to work in the nursing home as an assistant. At first, everything was going well, but suddenly one day, her mother suddenly disappeared. When she was found, her body was mutilated and dumped in the trash cans in the hallway. There were gruesome footprints on every floor of the staircase. The girl had lost her mind and fallen from the roof. Wang Ming listens to the story and notes that the ghost in the hallway he encountered seems to be the girl's mother. He wonders what happened next and whether the culprit was found. The driver only stated that such things about the case were unknown to him. After that, the driver said that he needed to hurry up and deliver the rest of the goods, so he had to go. Wang Ming did not insist the driver stay any longer. The man decides that he can't just take money from the guy, so he hands him a lighter and a candle. He asks that the guy light this candle as he walks up the stairs, noticing that it warms his heart, because there are still so many good ghosts in the world. Wang Ming then went to take the delivered boxes into the building. He had just escaped from the second floor and luckily didn't run into anyone. However, now, while the blood moon had not yet passed, then going up from the first floor to the fifth floor, he felt that he would most likely meet that mutilated lady. Placing the candle the driver had given him on the box, the guy decided to light it just in case. Picking up the box with the candle on it, he ran at a jog up the stairs. Suddenly he heard someone asking him to wait. The guy was once again overtaken by the ghost. Wang Ming immediately noticed that the ghost couldn't get closer to him because of the candle. It was as if he had been waiting for this moment and raised the candle high up, shouting that he had the mighty power of a dragon in his hands. The ghost instantly reacted to this gesture of the guy and started running away from him. Walking down the floor corridor, Wang Ming heard a woman's voice coming from the trash can. The woman was saying that she was almost done. Wang Ming noticed that it looked like he had come across another part of the woman's body and that it looked like the driver wasn't lying. Since the guy was protected by the burning candle in his hand, he decided to look into the trash can to see what was there. At the nursing home in the fourth floor hallway, in a trash can, he found what was left of the girl. Now he wasn't surprised that he couldn't find her last night since she was in the dumpster. He only sadly remarked that when desire takes hold of you, death seems like a release. Wang Ming headed to the fifth floor, the topmost floor in the nursing home. There was only one room 501 on the 5th floor. Looking at the door, the guy didn't see any information from the relatives, besides the principal didn't assign anyone to take care of this room. Wang Ming speculated that perhaps room 501 could be where the principal's secrets could be hidden. Wang Ming only reached for the door handle of room 501 when a woman appeared from the side and asked what the guy was doing here. Wang Ming was incredibly surprised by such a creepy and sudden appearance of the principal. The guy immediately said that he had brought the boxes that the principal had asked him for and asked where he should put the boxes. The woman asked him to put the boxes in the lobby, and he immediately went to put the box in. The principal followed the guy's heels into the 5th floor hallway. She pointed out the place where the guy should put the box. Afterward, she even wanted to give the guy his payment. Wang Ming was so happy that the principal was so kind to him. However, as soon as he turned around, he saw the true appearance of the principal, who was holding out a bloody envelope to the guy. She couldn't hide her intimidating smile while under the light of the blood moon. The woman laughingly informs the guy that she forgot to tell him that whoever steps on the 5th floor will not leave this place alive. Wang Ming was surprised and didn't understand why the woman did that. The guy resented that the principal was going to kill the donkey after he finished his work. He even felt that it was bullying an honest man. The monster didn't bother to listen to all of the guy's complaints and rushed to attack him. Wang Ming was able to dodge at the last moment. He even noticed that the woman was damn strong, and one blow from her was like 20 years of strength. The guy realized that the evil spirit's power alone would not be enough to defeat her. All he could do was run away. However, at this moment, the monster pounced on the guy once again. Wang Ming disappeared right before the woman's eyes, and she couldn't understand where the guy had gone. The guy realized that he couldn't win in such a fight and tried to escape because only an idiot would fight face to face with such a monster. There was only one way for him to win. He needed to close the curtains on the window and stop the transformation of the ghost. However, at this moment, he noticed that there were no curtains on the window. At the same moment, a frightening woman materialized behind his back. She knows how the guy was trying his best, but doesn't understand what the point of it is. The woman thinks the guy must be so frustrated, tired, and depressed right now. The woman offers to put an end to the guy's miserable and pain-filled life. However, at this moment, Wang Ming pointed his finger behind the monster's back and declared for the others to not just stand there and deal with the monster already. The monster turned around to see who the guy was talking about, and at that moment, the guy punched the monster. The monster flew off into the wall, and the guy ran on. He didn't realize what he was doing, and the evil spirit card was going to expire in a minute, and maybe he would die in this place. The monster caught up with the guy again and climbed up on the ceiling right above his head. Wang Ming remembered that there was another ghost in the corridor. If he got between the two monsters, he would be finished. Finding no other solution quickly, he ran towards room 501. The guy kicked the door of room 501 with his foot and decided to take a look at what was in that room. The monster shouted for the guy to not even think of entering the room. However, Wang Ming beat her to it, ran into the room, and immediately closed the door from the inside. Just at this time, the evil spirit card had expired. He was so tired of fighting for his life and all these monsters constantly appearing in front of him. However, when he turned around to look around the room, he saw the principal who was crying with her hands holding her head. Guy immediately assumed that this was when the principal was still an assistant. One day the girl sat in front of her mother's hospital bed and cried. She apologized to her mother, so she couldn't take it anymore. She went again and again to borrow money for her mother's treatment, promising that she would pay it back in a few days. However, no one listened to her anymore and asked her to get away from them. She begged so many people for help, even borrowing money from loan sharks. Eventually she realized that her mother's illness was no longer treatable, and she had to constantly spend huge sums of money on her treatment. Completely exhausted, she even tried to use a pillow, so her mom would finally stop destroying her herself as well. She cried, asking her mother to forgive her for this. Wang Ming saw all of this on the projector that was on, which was showing footage of the principal's life. The guy realized that the girl the driver was talking about was this girl on the projector, and the killer turned out to be herself. The puzzle in his head came together, as it turns out that the ghost in the hallway is the principal's mother. He is surprised that the woman got rid of her mother in such a horrible way that the driver told him about. Wang Ming pondered 100 times and still didn't understand anything. He even thought that perhaps everything strange and unbelievable was the norm in the wishing world. The second night at the Bloody Corner nursing home was so strange. In the morning, everyone reassembled in the first-floor lobby of the nursing home. Liu asked the others not to worry because from his experience, he could tell that the ordeal would be over soon. Yun Li and the others rejoiced as soon as they heard such an assumption. Liu reminded the others that the principal had said that each of them was in charge of 3 rooms. He decided to judge the progress of the task and concluded that their task of caring for the old people was complete. The others were so joyful. One guy was glad that he would finally be able to leave this creepy place. Another guy wondered to Liu if God would be able to fulfill their wishes. Liu remarks that God will fulfill their wish. However, he reminds them that by completing the task, you will realize the wish. But everyone should understand. To hear God, you have to pay a price. Everyone was so enthusiastic after Liu's speech that they would soon leave the wishing world and be able to realize their wishes. Wang Ming still suspected that the mission wouldn't end so easily after the 3rd night. At that moment, the principal appeared with a box in her hands. The guy noticed that the blood moon had receded and the principal had become kind of strange. The principal noticed that none of the players died last night. She announces that she will give everyone one last task. The principal tells them that the nursing home caters to clients, the elderly and their relatives. Therefore, she notices that there will be guests at the nursing home tomorrow morning. Before the guests arrive, she requests that the players inject the old people with a sedative to keep them quiet and docile. The principal again tossed flyers in the air with the room numbers that each of the players would be looking after. She reminded them that once the guest's visit comes to an end tomorrow, then the player's mission will be considered accomplished. The principal remarks that if someone fails in the mission and causes discontent, it will be an unforgivable mistake. At this point, Liu pulls Wang Ming by the sleeve and informs him that he has a matter to attend to. Liu reminds him that there were about 50 people in the first trials, so he asks the guy how he thinks there will be how many people left at the end. Liu notices that only 3 people will be able to make it to the end of the game. Wang Ming realizes what the man is saying, that there are too many survivors now. Liu panics, noting that there are few survivors in the wishing world and murder is commonplace in the world. He believes that there are too many people left, so it is simply unrealistic to complete the trial. He realized that tomorrow is not only the end of the trial, but also possibly the end of their lives. Wang Ming decides to also share the information he had. He reveals that the principal asked him to bring a box of medicine last night, so he suspected that there was something wrong with the sedative. Liu only noticed that the principal asked Wang Ming for something again. He even thought that she liked the guy. However, Wang Ming only irritably asks Liu to believe him that the latter would not want to fulfill the principal's whim. Wang Ming also points out that the grandmother he's looking after told him last night that syringes would kill them. Liu finally figured it all out, that the mission wasn't really as simple as he thought it would be. He felt that the mission was a trap, because the old people would die and the children would not leave the volunteers so easily. So the only option was not to inject the old people. Wang Ming admits that the information has not been verified, so he can't guarantee anything. In addition, he pointed out that judging from the way the principal was acting now, if the players didn't give the old people injections, she would kill the players herself. Wang Ming remarks that Liu is an experienced player, so he decides that Liu can tell others about it, and whether others will believe it or not is up to them. Liu thanks the guy for the information and leaves. I think it's obvious to everyone that Liu isn't going to share information with anyone, considering there should be 3 people in the finals. Looking at the falling pieces of paper with room numbers, the guy pondered the situation at hand. He caught number 205 and hoped that this evening would go smoothly for everyone. It felt like he had just decided to take the burden of responsibility off of himself. After all, he had told Liu about his assumptions, and if he didn't share it with everyone as he intended, then Liu was to blame for the deaths of others. The note on the door of room 205 said that Dad was mentally ill and that he needed to be watched every day, otherwise the man might hurt himself or others. The note was left by the man's only son, so he asked that if the illness was incurable, to tell his father about it. The request also stated that the player should never remove the man's harness. After reading the note and going inside the room, Wang Ming noticed an old man who was lying on the bed wearing a straitjacket and tied with straps additionally. The old man requested that the guy untie the straps. After all, he wasn't mentally ill. The old man then transformed into a kind of chameleon under the influence of the blood moon and tried to attack the guy, as he thought he deserved to die. Wang Ming dodged the tongue of the man who was still asking to be released. The guy grabbed the belt and forcefully pulled it off the old man, freeing the old man from his restraints. He wondered what was the rush and why attack him when he would have helped the old man out anyway. The old man returned to his human state a little, but not completely. Wang Ming asked the old man why he couldn't leave the guy alone. The old man was just about to go aggressive as Wang Ming asks him not to. However, the old man wasn't really going to do anything, and only notices by crying that the guy is standing on his tongue. Wang Ming notices that he did it by accident, and then he pushes his tongue back into the old man's mouth. 3 minutes later, Wang Ming is already sitting on the bed, listening to the old man's story. The old man declares that he is normal and not sick. The old man is skeptical because he realizes that the guy probably doesn't believe him, and that the guy deep down and in his heart thinks the old man is sick. Wang Ming thinks this is slander since he doesn't even have a heart. The old man doesn't understand how it's even possible for a person to not have a heart, and he thinks the guy is definitely crazy. Wang Ming is tired of the old man's claims and suggests that he see for himself. The old man looked at the guy's scars and thought it was just a costume. After taking a closer look, the old man sighed as he realized that the guy was so young and he had already had such a hard life. Wang Ming decided to take his chance, since the old man was no longer negative towards him, and pry more information from the old man. Wang Ming told the old man that since he saw the scars on his body, he and the old man were now friends. Wang Ming then asks his friend who he meant when he said the guy deserved to die. After hearing the guy's words, the old man starts going crazy again and cursing some guy. Wang Ming wondered if the old man was talking about his son. The old man, in a frenzy, tried to attack the guy again with his monster tongue. But at this, Wang Ming stated that the old man's son was already dead. The old man froze and did not continue his attack. Wang Ming realized that the old man's son was the solution to the problem. He told the old man that there was no need to take the life of someone who was already dead. The old man was shocked when he heard such news from the guy. Wang Ming didn't bother to explain all the subtleties to the old man, and simply stated that he didn't understand why he would even talk about the old man's son at that time. The old man became more of a man again, and that's when Wang Ming realized that he was moving in the right direction. Wang Ming wondered why the old man wanted his son to die so badly. Especially the guy remembered that the old man only had one son. One day, the old man's wife fell ill, and the doctor said he could save her, but he needed a lot of money. The old man wanted to sell the house and give life to his wife. However, his son refused to sell the house. The father and mother worked hard to save money to buy their son a house. In the end, the house was more important to the son than his own mother. The old man was incredibly happy that such an ungrateful son had finally died. Wang Ming realized that his lies had gone too far. The old man wondered if tomorrow would be the day of the relatives' visit. Wang Ming wondered why the old man was asking him that. The old man thought the guy was a good person, but now they had to say goodbye. Wang Ming wonders what the old man is implying. Then the old man tells him that when relatives come to visit, the caregivers change and there are fewer and fewer old people. The old man still remembered the times when the nursing home was lively, not as quiet as it is now. As the guy and the old man talked, the third night at the Bloody Corner nursing home came to an end. The next day, the lobby of the nursing home was crowded because guests had arrived. They wanted to see their relatives, who were residents of the nursing home. Suddenly, a woman went into one of the rooms and screamed as it appeared that her mom was dead. The player in charge of this room and himself was in shock as he could not understand what had happened. Someone's father died, and they began to resent how disgustingly their relatives were being cared for in the nursing home. Someone called the workers heartless for killing their father. The poor players didn't know how to react to what was happening as they did everything the principal asked them to do. The relatives of the dead turned around to the volunteers, who they thought should have died. In an instant, all the players who had caused the relatives of the guests to suffer were torn to pieces. The principal gracefully watched everything happening from above. She was so happy, because in the end, everyone would turn into dust. Meanwhile, in the nursing home, a massacre had begun in the first-floor hallway. The poor players were trying to escape from the guests who really disliked the current state of their relatives. As expected, Liu didn't say anything to anyone as he wanted to win himself. The principal, on the other hand, was happy since everything went exactly according to her plan. How will Wang Ming get out of this situation? A frightened Yun Li was standing in the third-floor hallway. She was incredibly scared as a monster was heading in her direction, and she asked it to stay away from her. The moment the monster attacked the girl, Wang Ming walked towards the girl and pushed the monster aside. Wang Ming used the evil spirit card to confront the monster and asked how Yun Li was feeling. The woman assured the guy that she was fine. However, when she turned around, she saw a large number of monsters behind her back. She wondered in fear at the guy what had happened and why so many monsters had appeared. Wang Ming grabbed the woman's hand and decided that now was not the time to discuss anything, because the most important thing now was to get out of this place. He even complained that it looked like there would still be indiscriminate slaughter, whether one took a shot of sedative or not, and that all the players would still die. Wang Ming pondered the fact that there should be at least one right answer out of the two options. After realizing that the monsters were catching up to them, the woman asked the guy not to worry and run away by himself. Wang Ming only said that although his strength was limited, so he wouldn't be able to save everyone, but he would definitely be able to save Yun Li. The woman had tears in her eyes as she said this. Longed to be a hero and say fiery speeches, the guy did not have time because the monsters did not want to leave him alive and so again went on the attack. However, the guy could not be taken by surprise and he easily threw the monster aside with his right hand. The aura around the guy changed and he suddenly noticed that the evil spirit's strength seemed to have become stronger. Wang Ming quickly realized that it didn't seem to be as he had assumed and the evil spirit was actually absorbing him. Wang Ming was faced with a dilemma, for despite the danger from the evil spirit, he realized that if he freed himself from the evil spirit's power, the monsters would tear him apart. Now the guy realized that the evil spirit had been waiting for this moment all along. However, he did not despair, but only smiled. He decided to see if he could control the evil spirit or if the evil spirit would devour him. Suddenly, Liu appeared in front of Wang Ming and was attacked by another monster. Out of his last strength, the man shouted to the guy that it wasn't the principal who bought the injections. Wang Ming began to quickly recall all the events that had happened in the nursing home since their arrival. Instantly, a puzzle formed in his mind that the sedative injections were actually bought by the children of the old people. After all, these children were all wishing their elderly parents a speedy death. Yun Li apologizes to Guy that it all happened because of her. However, Wang Ming does not blame the woman as he does not see her fault in the situation. He assures that from the beginning they are all participants in the trial and therefore they were doomed to die. Wang Ming is not desperate and rather quickly comes up with one option. The option he came up with was insane, but he believed that it was their only chance to get out of this place. The monsters were rapidly approaching them, but Wang Ming grabbed the woman's hand and ran with her. He ran towards the door of room 203. Just at this time, the evil spirit card's countdown began. At the last second of the evil spirit card's action, the guy and the woman managed to run into room 203. He thought that he would be able to remove the evil spirit card in this room. After running into the room and trying to close the door of the room, the guy asks which of the monsters chasing them is the child of the old man in room 203. The guy asks the old man's son to look at all the raw meat the old man had left for him. The guy complains that the old man's son didn't even have the courage to visit his father. Wang Ming shames the man, saying that the man left his father alone for his father to rot with all that food. Wang Ming complains that it wasn't him who took bad care of the old man, but that it was all the old man's son's fault. Wang Ming notes that the son wanted his father dead, even though his father raised him. Suddenly, one of the monsters starts reverting to human form, and he notes that even if it's true, it doesn't prove anything. The man complains that his father said he was leaving food for him. However, the food the father left for his son was rotten and stale. The man even noted that his father hid the food in his pockets. To the man, this act of his father was too disgusting. However, after the man's speeches, Wang Ming only became angry. He stated that if the man thought all of his father's actions were disgusting, then let him look at the note and read what it said. Wang Ming thought that what it said was disgusting. He handed the man the note, and the man was shocked after reading the note. He recalled that when he was in junior high school, he told his father that he liked fresh meat the best. Every time the son came to visit his father's apartment always stank of rotten meat, and there were a lot of flies around. The man always complained when he came to visit his father that his father's place stank unbelievably. He complained that if his father continued like this, he would send his father to a nursing home. The old man remarked that he didn't know what the shelf life of the food was, but he knew for a fact that the meat wasn't rotten or dirty to begin with. The old man frustratedly remarked that when the meat was fresh, his son never visited him. The son realized that all this time he had not understood his father. The son even apologized to his father. The son stated that he would now take his father home immediately. The old man was incredibly happy that the son finally understood him. At the same moment, the old man and his son dissolved together as if they had ascended to the heavens, resolving their conflict. Yun Li, watching this moment of father and son reuniting, was surprised and didn't understand what was happening. Only now Wang Ming realized that they had missed one thing, that the assignment was called Weeping Sunset. Sunset is a metaphor for old people. The guy notices that the sunset shouldn't be crying. At the same moment, the monsters stopped their attack, as if expecting some kind of redemption. After that, Wang Ming took one girl to room 204. He reminded the girl that she was complaining that her mother was forgetting everything, that she couldn't even go to the toilet without help. The woman immediately asked Xiaofang if Xiaofang had come to see her. Guy notes that despite the fact that the woman forgets everything, she still remembers the name of her daughter, the one who wanted to abandon her. The daughter, seeing her mom and hearing such important words, cried and said that she was wrong. After that, Wang Ming led the rest of the people behind him to take everyone to mom or dad. One guy grabbed Wang Ming's hand and remarked that he could see that Wang Ming was trying to push his feelings. However, the man remarked that his father always wanted to kill him since the man missed the chance to save his mother for the sake of money. The man realized that his father would not be able to forgive him even after his death. Wang Ming immediately noticed that the man was actually wrong and that the man was not primarily looking for forgiveness from his father, but wanted to forgive himself for his own deed someday. The man, on the other hand, became angry upon hearing Wang Ming say such words. He said that he will never enter the room and will wait for Wang Ming outside to wring his neck with his own hands. Wang Ming doesn't mind and asks the man to wait for him at the door. After that, Wang Ming went into the old man's room. The old man looked at the guy and asked if the guy was leaving already. Wang Ming admitted that it was already time for him to leave. However, lastly, he wanted to confess to the old man that he had lied to the old man earlier, that the old man's son had died. The old man notices that if the guy lied to him, he should have gotten angry. But despite that, the old man didn't want to kill the guy for some reason. However, Wang Ming notices that even though the old man's son didn't die, the son didn't have much time left. The old man wondered what the guy was implying. Wang Ming tells the story that the old man's son is sick and that he needs a heart transplant, but the hospital can't provide the old man's son with a heart. The old man doesn't hesitate for a second and immediately asks if his heart will be suitable for his son. Wang Ming reminds the old man that he wanted to kill his son because the son had abandoned his own mother for the sake of the apartment, and so the old man's wife died. The old man remembered that his wife had actually insisted on refusing treatment, not wanting to burden his son because of her illness. The old man concealed from his wife the fact that he was trying to get his son to sell the house. The old man had not expected his son to refuse to help his parents so decisively. The old man believes that the head doctor will not allow him to leave the nursing home, so he asks that Wang Ming help him and give his heart to the hospital where his son is. The son could not continue to stand outside the door. He immediately opened the door and ran into the room. The man immediately sat down on the floor, bowed to his father, and then apologized to him. The old man inquired if his son was all right. He stroked his son's head and informed him that if his son was okay, he was fine. The father forgave his son, for it was his son. Thus father and son made peace and disappeared. Soon they descended to the first-floor hallway. Yun Li took a look at what Wang Ming was doing and disposed of the 3 rooms she was in charge of in the same manner. However, the key information came too late, so when Wang Ming and Yun Li returned to the first-floor hallway, the other members were already lying in a pool of blood. Wang Ming remarks that it looks like they passed the test. Yun Li thought so too. The guy cheerfully asked the woman if she knew what was at the end of this trial. The woman anxiously inquired what it was. That's when Wang Ming joked that it was a verbal duel. The woman laughed. She even asked that the guy leave his contact so that after they returned to the world of the living, she would treat the guy to dinner. Wang Ming even noticed that after the woman talked about food, then he felt hungry. They were even about to agree to meet at a specific place when the principal suddenly appeared. She declared in the form of a monster that no one from the nursing home would leave alive. Yun Li didn't know what they should do in such a situation. Wang Ming also sadly noticed that the evil spirit card was still in cooldown. The monster-shaped principal was already too close to attack when suddenly a can flew into her face. Wang Ming stated that he had found this jar under the bed in room 501. The guy thought that the principal must be curious about what kind of medicine was in the jar. The woman recognized the jar and realized that it contained sleeping pills. The principal immediately sat down and clutched her head, for she remembered where she had seen that jar of sleeping pills. Wang Ming notices that the woman seemed to think that she had killed her mother. However, the guy notices that before the woman tried to kill her mother, the mother had taken an entire jar of sleeping pills. The woman became furious because she thought her mother would never do such a thing. Wang Ming then grabbed Yun Li's hand and ordered her to run away with him. They just had time to run out of the nursing home before the nursing home began to disappear before their eyes. A message was also shown that the tree wants to stand still, but the wind won't stop. The child wants to take care of his parents, but they couldn't be waited on any longer. The sunset should not be allowed to become empty, for the morning sun is never sad. After that, the bloody courtyard was complete. Suddenly, the sun peeked out, and everything around them became bright as if it was day. Yun Li breathed a sigh of relief that they had accomplished the task they had. Wang Ming also breathed a sigh of relief and was glad that he had prepared in advance. He even reminded the woman again, as he had told her before, that there would be a verbal battle waiting for them at the end of the challenge. Suddenly, someone's hand reached out to the guy from behind. The mysterious woman asked the guy to listen to the whispers of the gods and that the guy's wishes would be granted. After that, a parchment appeared in front of the guy. He was surprised to finally see his reward for passing the test. His reward was the fulfillment of a single wish or dream. Wang Ming decided that he would not wait long or ask for too little. He wrote that he needed to leave along with all of his organs. However, after that, his wish was suddenly erased from the parchment. Wang Ming even began to complain that the god was too greedy. He became furious that did the god count each organ of a person as one wish. Then it turns out, no matter which organ Wang Ming returned, he would still die afterwards. Wang Ming couldn't believe it and wrote on the parchment again and again, carefully formulating his wishes, but time after time, everything he wrote was erased from the parchment. Wang Ming began to complain that since the god refused to fulfill even such a simple wish, it could be considered a deception on the god's part. Finally, Wang Ming thought it over and decided that his wish would be that he wanted to live. He decided that the so-called god should agree to his condition this time. This time, the parchment accepted the guy's entry. An inscription about understanding the logic of the sequence of gods also appeared on the parchment. Wang Ming couldn't understand what the parchment was talking about and what else the sequence of gods and the logic chain were. Suddenly, the parchment began to shine brighter and brighter, and the guy had no choice but to instinctively close his eyes. When he opened his eyes, he saw that he was back in the operating room. He was a little surprised that he had managed to come back to the world of the living, and he was alive, so he still couldn't believe it. However, he looked at his body and noticed a giant scar there, and then he felt sad. The guy didn't know if he could be considered human if he had no organs. He realized that he was sort of alive and sort of not alive. However, he decided to put those thoughts aside, for he was glad that he was able to at least pass the test. Unfortunately, there was one more question he couldn't understand. What was the sequence of gods? Plus, it was creepy what the principal had done to her mother, scattering her remains across the hallway of the nursing home. The guy realized that it seemed like the events in the wishing world couldn't be explained from an ordinary person's point of view. After getting dressed and hiding the scar on his body behind a lot of bandages, the guy decided that the most important thing for him at the moment was to get to the hospital and get x-rayed. As soon as the guy left the building with the operating room where his organs had been taken from him earlier, A strange woman was already watching him from the roof of the building. The woman in an exquisite outfit asked the guy in the new world to keep listening to the whispers of the gods, even though the guy couldn't hear her. Meanwhile, at Wish World in the nursing home, the principal sat on the floor, kneeling in front of her mother. She stated that she was wrong and informed her mother that she could not control herself at that time. However, the mother called her daughter a stupid child and informed her daughter that she never blamed her for anything. The woman felt that she had been a burden to her daughter all along. She was about to point out that if it wasn't for her, her daughter was doing well. However, at that moment, the woman's hands flew apart. Suddenly, a terrifying monster appeared with a giant cleaver in his hands. He declared that the woman was a worthless principal. The woman was immediately frightened upon seeing the butcher. She noted fearfully that she had already killed many people for Butcher. She did not understand why Butcher could not leave her alone, nor could he leave her mother alone. However, Butcher felt that he should not leave the woman and her mother alone. He recalled that the woman's first desire was to be free from the bonds of kinship. The woman's second desire was to resurrect her mother. Butcher notes that God fulfilled this wish. Butcher notes that even though the woman's mother was resurrected piece by piece, it was the woman's fault. It was the woman's fault for failing to properly specify in what form she wanted her mother to be resurrected. After that, he slammed the woman's mother to the floor. The woman was crying and was about to scream when suddenly Butcher abruptly reached over and covered her mouth with his hand and lifted her into the air with one arm. He reminded the woman that if the next time anyone could get out of the nursing home alive, the woman and her mother wouldn't even have a place in the wishing world. Meanwhile, in the real world, at the Linhai People's Hospital, Wang Ming overhears someone complaining that Jiang Gui has disappeared somewhere and that he can't be reached, which worries the woman very much. The woman with short black hair notices that the man said he would find a way to cure old man Liu himself. However, another woman called the man a silly boy, because old man Liu was already in a vegetative state and the doctors said he was hopeless. Yet another interviewee remarked that when the man returned, it would be necessary to talk to him. She felt that even though the construction company had paid out $1,000,000, it was impossible to spend all the money on the hospital. The guy realized that it seemed to be Liu Jianggui's family. He sighed sadly because the family did not know yet that Liu would not come back again. Then a doctor came out of room 916 and announced that Wang Ming was next to be seen. The guy immediately announced that he was Wang Ming. After that, the guy went to the computed tomography scan room. The doctor's face was covered with cold sweat when he looked at the X-ray, because he obviously didn't expect to see such a thing. The doctor told the guy that the computed tomography scan machine seemed to be broken, and he even asked Wang Ming to come back tomorrow for an appointment. Wang Ming immediately asked why the doctor thought the machine was broken. The doctor couldn't come up with any other explanation since he couldn't get X-rays of Wang Ming's organs. The doctor thought that it was obviously a problem with the computed tomography scanner because there was no way a living person could be missing all of his internal organs. Wang Ming was upset. The good news for him was that he had somehow managed to survive. However, the bad news was that his internal organs were really gone. The guy informed the doctor that the doctor was right and that the computed tomography scan machine was actually broken. After seeing the doctor, the distraught guy left the hospital and went out into the streets of Linhai City. Wang Ming noticed that although he had no internal organs, he was able to eat, drink, and defecate, so all his body functions were working normally. Looking at the poster of a beautiful girl on one of the buildings, he even wondered if the rest of his body functions were working just as well, and if he would have any problems with girls. However, he immediately slapped himself and then tried to remind himself that he was an honorable man who was far from lowly pleasures. He realized that feelings and love were not for him. Despite all this, he decided that he would check and find out everything by his own hand later. What a varmint Wang Ming is! However, things clearly wouldn't go well for him, as he was already being watched. A creepy girl found him in the world of the living. She clearly wants revenge on the scoundrel for throwing her off the bus and preventing her from fulfilling her wish. The plot of this story continues to swirl. Although Wang Ming was able to leave the wish world and somehow miraculously stayed alive even without all of his internal organs, then his life is not easy. He would not be left out of the consequences of leaving the wish world and other interested parties. Creepy woman, mysterious woman, and butcher are clearly interested in the brash guy. The principal's life is not so simple really, and she suffers. She has to punish other people to save herself and her mother. The plot part with the nursing home is quite sad. First of all, it is a misunderstanding between people, and that first of all it is necessary to communicate in order to understand each other, and not to guess for a person his thoughts, misinterpreting them. Secondly, unfortunately, few people can grow old beautifully. Closer to old age, even more horrifying diseases await us, which are incredibly difficult for relatives to deal with. Wang Ming leisurely strolled through the streets of Linhai City. As he walked, he decided to search for information on the internet using his phone. He was interested in any information about all the people he was going through the game with. However, he couldn't find any answers to his questions, and he found the lack of information strange. If Liu Jiangui was to be believed, all the participants in the test in the nursing home lived in Linhai City. There was such a high death rate in the wishing world, but there were no reports of missing people on the internet. Suddenly, someone called his phone, which didn't make the guy happy. As soon as he answered the phone, the supervisor immediately yelled at him because he didn't show up for work. The woman was indignant, anticipating all the guy's excuses. She started making assumptions one after another that he was carrying his grandmother across the street or he was hit by a car. She even pointed out that the guy didn't seem to want to get paid this month. Wang Ming didn't have time to come up with an excuse beforehand, so he asked his landlady not to be angry, because he had undergone a minor surgery and would be at work soon. In an effort to save his life, he completely forgot that he had a job. At the same time, in one of the city alleys of Linhai City, two guys harassed a girl who seemed to stop them from messing with a cat. They began to taunt that Zhu Yao was a homeless girl herself, but had taken to protecting the stray cat. They were amused because the girl was just like the cat, and it was as if she had found a kindred spirit. Tears came to the girl's eyes. She didn't understand how people in front of her could burn the cat she called Xiaobai with cigarettes. However, the guys asked the girl to stop talking idly and give them the cat. They even hinted that if the girl didn't give them the cat, she should repay them in another way. Closing her eyes, the girl offered to give them money in exchange for them to get off the cat. However, these guys didn't want money, they wanted Zhu Yao herself. At the last moment, a blonde guy ran out from around the corner and told the other guys to stop. The blonde guy was a clumsy guy, so he immediately tripped and fell right in front of the guys. The shorter guy immediately started beating him up, recognizing him as the brat Ling Yushu. He even mocked that Ling Yushu wanted to play hero with his pathetic strength. However, despite the beatings, the blonde smiled, asking the guys not to abuse the girl, but to beat him. His words infuriated the guys, and they started beating him harder, saying that they were fulfilling his wish. Ling Yushu didn't give up, noting that if the guys beat him, then they shouldn't touch the girl. The girl begged for the guys to stop beating Ling Yushu. Drooling over the girl, they turned their predatory gazes on her, asking her to do a lot of things for them. Seeing the girl's fear, they were going to beat Ling Yushu even harder if she didn't do what they asked. In the end, they managed to break the girl's fighting spirit, and she made the decision to agree to their condition. Ling Yushu tried to stop the vile guys, but was powerless, and they were already licking at the girl. However, at this moment, a guy who might not receive his salary for this month soon appeared behind them. He was outraged that some two pathetic bugs were making such a ruckus. He immediately told them to get out, and if they didn't do it, then don't let them resent him, because he was giving them a chance. One of the guys didn't realize who appeared in front of them at all. The other guy told Wang Ming to stay out of their business. Wang Ming remarked that since the nasty bedbugs hadn't left yet while he was giving them a chance, it meant that they had decided to stay behind to regret their choice. The nasty guys were immediately frightened by the aura that emanated from Wang Ming. They decided to run away after all. However, it was already too late, and Wang Ming called out the number 3. One of the guys frightenedly stated that Wang Ming had missed the digits 1 and then 2 until the digit 3. This was the wrong answer, as the guy was trying to teach how to count to the person holding the bat. Moments later, the nasty guys ran away, apologizing to Wang Ming and crying. They declared that they wouldn't engage in such matters again. Ling Yushu immediately stood up from the ground and started shaking off his clothes from the dirt. He even started bragging that if the guy didn't help him, he would have dealt with the nasty guys himself. Wang Ming just wasn't sure about this. Wang Ming approached the girl and asked if she was all right. The girl seemed to recognize Wang Ming immediately as she called him by name. Wang Ming, on the other hand, was surprised that the girl suddenly recognized him. With a red face, the girl revealed that Wang Ming used to be her classmate. Ling Yushu immediately started bragging that in their school, rescuing girls seemed to be a tradition. Now Wang Ming remembered where he had seen the school uniform Ling Yushu was wearing before. Out of the kindness of his heart, he decided not to break the guy's finger. Wang Ming was in an incredible hurry, so he immediately said goodbye to the boy and the girl as he had to rush to work. After walking a little further down the alleyway, Wang Ming got lost and didn't know where to go next. Just at that moment, a woman appeared behind him and said that he was not going anywhere else. The guy kept trying to remember where he could see the woman in front of him before. The masked woman didn't hesitate and immediately launched an attack on the guy. Wang Ming was a very smart guy, so he instantly realized that the creepy girl was in front of him. The creepy girl moved quite fast, but at the same moment he felt something strange. A familiar feeling overtook him. At the same moment, he began to dissolve right before the eyes of creepy girl, who was desperately trying to get him. Creepy girl didn't have time to catch up to him as the guy disappeared right before her eyes, falling into the wishing world. She was furious that he had fallen into the wishing world at that very moment. Wang Ming didn't have time to realize anything before he was sitting at a giant luxurious table where other people were also sitting. He was trying to realize what had just happened to him. He thought that creepy girl was just an NPC of the wishing world, so he wondered how she ended up in the real world. In addition, he was also interested in another situation because he had somehow miraculously found himself back in the wishing world. He was disappointed that he had been forcibly dragged into the wishing world. The man in the courier suit stood up from his chair, trying to realize where he had gotten to and what kind of people were in front of him. Some of those present already knew that the wishing world existed, even though they had never been to it. Others were still trying to realize what an incomprehensible place they were in and were starting to panic. However, the woman who was sitting across from Wang Ming decided to stop all of this outrage. She told everyone to shut up and look at their plates. Wang Ming, a veteran of the wishing world, only now noticed his plate with a note on it. According to the notes they had in their plates, they got into a house in the cemetery and had to live there for 10 days. Some were too superstitious and thought it was a sure death, and some even wondered if there were ghosts in the wishing world. Considering that the house was in a graveyard, this was very important information. After reading the note and highlighting keywords like graveyard, sorrow, Wang Ming realized that the trial would be quite gloomy this time. Someone suddenly declared for the others not to panic, as their situation wasn't that bad. The guy recognized the voice that sounded and discovered that Ling Yushu and Zhu Yao were at the table. It surprised him too much that the three of them had somehow miraculously entered the wishing world. At this moment, they were in the wishing world, in the dining room on the first floor of the villa, where it was incredibly beautiful and bright. Wang Ming was still surprised that Ling Yushu and Zhu Yao had entered the wishing world with him. The courier was shocked and continued to panic. He pointed out that they were living in a cemetery, and that was enough to consider the situation bad. However, Ling Yushu thought that the courier was wrong. After all, they had never lived in such a luxurious villa and had never eaten such exquisite food. He thought it was incredibly cool to spend 10 days at his leisure in such beautiful surroundings and then have his most cherished wish granted at the end of the ordeal. Ling Yushu did not restrain himself and began to eat the food on the table. He said that they wouldn't be able to get out of this place anyway, so it was best to have a good meal. Some people started to agree with Ling Yushu's opinion. Wang Ming had no idea that this guy was such a hardened optimist. In the end, most of the players decided to relax and eat. One of the guys noticed that Wang Ming got up from the table without eating. He asked where Wang Ming was going, and Wang Ming said he was going to the toilet. He felt that something strange would happen at any moment, so he decided to look around the house. As he walked around the villa, he noticed that the main door was locked, but there was a lot of light in the villa and a light fragrance of color. Looking around the house, he found that the first floor contained the living room, kitchen, dining room, and tea room. On the second floor were a gym, computer room, study, dressing room, and several bedrooms of varying sizes. The third floor had a glazed veranda with plants, a storage room, a music room, and a room filled with dolls. The rest of the rooms on the third floor were empty, so there was room to spread out. After finally looking around the entire villa, Wang Ming went down to the living room on the first floor of the villa. After noticing the cheerful people, he was incredibly angry, for he had not expected such an interaction with the wishing world at all. The courier shook and pointed at the TV in a frightened voice to see if anyone would come out of the TV. Zhu Yao was incredibly frightened to hear such a thing. But everyone around him laughed, and the courier noted that he was only joking. Another guy noticed how cowardly the girl was. The trial hadn't even started yet, and she was already scared. Ling Yushu, like a hero, asked the girl not to be afraid, because if Sadako dared to get out of the TV, he would scream "Chrysanthemum monster." However, at that very moment, the house seemed to shake, and then the TV turned on by itself. The TV showed a shot of the all-too-familiar well. All the players present instantly stopped laughing when they saw the familiar well on the TV. They started to get scared that whether Sadako would really come out of the TV, but at that moment the picture cut off, and the interference started. The players exhaled instantly. The girl even thought that it was just a bad signal, and they were all making a fool of themselves because no Sadako was going to show up. As soon as she said that, the girl's intimidating figure began to emerge from the TV. The players were incredibly frightened when they noticed Sadako's appearance. The girl froze from the rhinestone, so the intimidating and bony Sadako caught her rather quickly. The girl called out for help, but the bony Sadako didn't wait long and simply snapped the girl's neck. Wang Ming, being an experienced survivalist in the wishing world, didn't give in to panic like the others. He took the TV remote and simply turned off the TV. At the same moment, Sadako, who had climbed out of the TV, began to disappear. The courier was surprised at how savvy Wang Ming was. The other guy was surprised that all they had to do to make Sadako disappear was to turn off the TV. Wang Ming wasn't too pleased, because as soon as the courier opened his mouth to talk about Sadako, she came right out of the TV. The courier himself was surprised at what happened after he mentioned Sadako. Ling Yushu found the moment with the courier suspicious. He even thought that maybe the courier had the ability to turn words into reality. They were in the wishing world, so it wasn't a possibility to be brushed aside. He even asked the courier to say that he had Dia Chang hanging on his belt to test his theory. The courier uttered the phrase with obvious disbelief, but Ling Yushu was not satisfied with it, and he asked him to repeat it loudly and confidently. The courier yelled the agreed-upon phrase at the top of his voice, but nothing happened. It was now clear to everyone that the courier didn't have the ability to translate words into reality. One guy didn't know how they could survive 10 days if one person had already died so quickly. The girl, whose name was Meng Yumian, pointed out that in the beginning the death rate was always high, so in order to survive, they needed to understand the rules and avoid trouble as quickly as possible. The guy was worried about the fact that according to the movie, everyone who watches the movie always dies in the end. However, Wang Ming intervened in their conversation, reminding the others that if the rules were like the movie, turning off the TV wouldn't help them. Meng Yumian pointed out that Sadako was the ghost from the Japanese movie, and they had already seen her, so she wondered who would be next. She even thought about the fact that maybe their next problem would be Kuchisake Onna, also known as slit-mouthed woman. As soon as she said that, the next moment their worst nightmare materialized. Kuchisake Onna smashed the floor during her appearance in the living room of the first floor of the villa. Meng Yumian could not hide her smile after the woman appeared. Wang Ming immediately noticed that the girl had specifically mentioned Kuchisake Onna as if she was going to check them out. Ling Yushu didn't hesitate and was the first to run away, grabbing the hand and dragging the still-frozen Zhu Yao behind him. The other players followed suit and started running up the stairs as well. However, one person didn't manage to run far and was caught up by a woman. She immediately asked the man if she was beautiful or not. Without waiting for an answer, she pointed her blade at the man, leaving him no chance to escape. The woman then turned her gaze to the fleeing man and asked them again if she was beautiful. The guy closest to her was shocked. He was surprised that the woman still hadn't disappeared, which meant she would continue her bloody trek. Everyone ran upstairs, trying to find a room where they could hide from the woman's pursuit. After running into the room and closing it, Wang Ming began to listen, quickly realizing that the woman seemed to be coming up the stairs already. He even took out the evil spirit card, realizing that if the woman entered the room, he would be forced to use the card. At this moment, he was called out by Lin Yushu, who was standing behind him, startling the guy. He asked Wang Ming not to worry as they would surely be fine. Wang Ming was surprised to find Zhu Yao and Ling Yushu in the same room that he himself hid in. He immediately paid attention to what the guy said, asking the guy to explain the details. Ling Yushu didn't hold back, immediately pointing to the evil spirit card and explaining that this was an item Wang Ming must have gotten in his previous game. Ling Yushu stated that he had also obtained a special ability in his previous game, the name of which was Luck. Wang Ming was surprised after realizing that the guy meant the God sequence by special ability. Ling Yushu was delighted, noting that he immediately realized that Wang Ming was not an ordinary person. He didn't expect Wang Ming to know about the sequence of gods. Ling Yushu immediately started bragging that his luck was his sequence of gods, so he thought that Wang Ming could be calm. He even declared that everyone with him was under the protection of luck. Ling Yushu even loudly announced that there were many rooms on the second floor, so with his luck ability, they definitely wouldn't be found by Kuchisake Onna. As soon as he said that, the woman was already knocking on the door of their room, asking if she was beautiful. Wang Ming was displeased, for he had almost believed the guy's words, but it had all turned out to be more bad luck than good fortune. Ling Yushu took his eyes aside in shame, believing that it was all just a fluke. Kuchisake Onna was already in the middle of breaking down the door of the room, which was incredibly frightening to the two guys and the girl. After making a hole in the door, the woman decided to make a reference to the movie The Shining. She only had one wish, to make everyone as beautiful as herself. Ling Yushu couldn't understand why the woman chose the door to their room. Zhu Yao was already crying with fear, so scared was she. A moment later, Kuchisake Onna broke the remains of the door to the room. Wang Ming realized that he had no choice but to use the evil spirit card. As soon as the woman got too close to him, he immediately activated the evil spirit card. He was finally sick of the question of whether she was beautiful, so trying to put all his strength into his punch, he asked that in her next life the woman not be so beautiful. Grabbing the woman's face, Wang Ming instantly slammed her to the floor with incredible force, causing the chandelier underneath their floor to shake from side to side. Wang Ming struck again and again, laughing as he did so. The others came to watch the frightening performance. One girl thought that Wang Ming was incredibly strong. Someone even paid attention to what was behind the guy's back. Someone even thought the guy was scarier than any devil. Ling Yushu immediately stood up for Wang Ming, pointing out that while everyone else was just standing there with their mouths hanging open, Wang Ming was risking his life by fighting Kuchisake Onna. He was even willing to fight Tyrant. The girl did not know who the name Tyrant was. The guy was surprised that the girl had never heard of Tyrant. In the end, he thought that the girl was too young to know about Tyrant from Resident Evil. Ling Yushu immediately ran up to the guy to cover his mouth, reminding him that they were not allowed to talk about such a thing. Based on the past rule, as soon as they named a monster, it would immediately appear. This time was no exception, so the monster immediately began to appear in front of them. Wang Ming only turned around when he heard the noise, and the monster immediately appeared in front of his face. Reflexively, Wang Ming was startled and punched the monster in the face, trying to push it away from him. This time, the monster was not alone, but in large numbers. All of them rushed towards Wang Ming. The others immediately rushed to run away, only throwing up more problems for Wang Ming. Zhu Yao was not willing to just leave the guy in trouble like that. Ling Yushu asked the girl not to be afraid, because he could help the guy. Ling Yushu grabbed a piece of door that was lying under his feet, and then used his divine sequence to throw the piece of door at the monster. The piece of door only lightly hit one monster on the head. The other monsters bewilderedly settled on the piece of door that fell right in front of them. The monsters immediately turned their heads towards the one who threw the piece of door. Zhu Yao and Ling Yushu were incredibly scared, and the guy even started apologizing to the monsters. The monsters, as if seeing their new prey, instantly all rushed towards them. Wang Ming didn't let the monsters devour themselves, grabbing one piece of Kuchisake Onna's scissors. Ling Yushu at this time was already saying goodbye to his life while hugging Zhu Yao. He was apologizing to the girl for hurting them because of him. However, at the last moment, Wang Ming reached them and destroyed a monster with his blade. One of the monsters tried to sneak up from behind and grab the guy's shoulder. Wang Ming got all pissed off at such a ridiculous attack by the monster, So he immediately rushed to attack the remaining monsters, lightning fast to destroy the monsters that attacked them. After finishing destroying the monsters, Wang Ming immediately ordered that from now on, no one should mention the names of the monsters, or better yet, no one should dare to mention any monsters anymore. At the same time in the real world, the girl was traveling at full speed on a motorcycle. Suddenly she stopped in the alley where Wang Ming had disappeared earlier. Through the earpiece, the girl, whose name was Xiao Wang, was asked if there were any findings. The girl noted that the person was already in the wishing world, and judging by the residual ripples at the scene, the person was forcibly pulled into the wishing world. Looking at the data, Xiao Wang was surprised because it looked like the wish monster had already appeared in this place. The girl immediately received a message that a special group was already moving in to help her. The interlocutor was also about to arrive, telling the girl to be careful. Xiao Wang understood the order she received, staying behind to wait for reinforcements. Looks like the guy will never escape from the wishing world alive, and everything will only end with his death. Only one thing is certain about the guy's fate. He will definitely be fired and will be left without a salary. The countdown to the end of the mission was still 10 days, and the mission had only started 2 hours ago. The surviving players gathered in the living room on the first floor. Some began to complain that it had been so little time since the start of the trial, and already there had been such terrible consequences. People were panicking, not knowing how they would survive the next 10 days. They were no longer having as much fun as they had at the beginning of the trial. One guy decided to get more food and keep hiding so he wouldn't run into any more monsters. Wang Ming informed Zhu Yao and Ling Yushu that since the door to the room they were hiding in was broken, there were now no rooms available on the second floor. The guy then asked them if they would go to the third floor with him. Ling Yushu instantly agreed he was willing to follow the guy to any place. Meng Yumian meanwhile kept her eyes on the back of the departing Wang Ming and his new friends. Soon, Wang Ming, Zhu Yao and Ling Yushu went up to the third floor of the villa. As soon as they found a suitable room, then Ling Yushu immediately started massaging Wang Ming's shoulders. He was curious to know more about Wang Ming's divine sequence. The guy couldn't help but admire how awesome Wang Ming was. Wang Ming was not easy at this moment. A cool sweat was protruding on his face. He noticed that the evil spirit's influence on him was getting stronger and stronger, so he wanted to use the evil spirit card as little as possible. Wang Ming decided to talk to the others since they had such a chance. He noticed that the two of them were high school students, and that they had nothing better to do, that they suddenly decided to participate in a wishing game. In addition, evaluating Ling Yushu's stories, the guy guessed that this wasn't the first time they had entered the wishing world. Snuggling into the pillow that was in her hands at this moment, Zhu Yao confessed that this was the second time she had entered the wishing world. She didn't have any items or divine sequence. She had heard from others that the method of wish fulfillment was very strange, so she didn't let the god grant wishes. The girl thought that she probably wouldn't make any wish this time either. According to Wang Ming's knowledge of the wishing world, only those at death, or those whose desire had reached the limit, could enter the wishing world. Therefore, he wondered how the girl had gotten into the wishing world last time. The girl sadly confessed that at that moment she had wished very hard for one particular person to die. And in that moment, she had actually died. As if agonizing over a headache, the guy grabbed his head with his left hand. He thought that it was probably about some school bullies. Wang Ming advised the girl to make a wish this time that no one would ever hurt her again, and that she would have the strength to stand up for herself. After hesitating for a bit, the girl agreed with the guy's advice. Wang Ming then looked at the blonde guy who had been beside him all this time. Ling Yushu confessed with bitterness in his heart and almost shed a tear that money was very hard at home. Ever since he was little, his mother had told him that poor people had to grow up early. He wanted to continue his story further, but Wang Ming cracked him lightly on the head with his hand, telling him to speak normally. Ling Yushu complained that he just wanted to create the right atmosphere. He admitted that this was the third time he had entered the wishing world, and although he had been lucky enough to pass the previous 2 times, he hadn't been able to obtain any items. However, he did obtain an ability. He had comprehended the divine sequence called luck. Wang Ming was surprised that the guy had been tested twice in the wishing world and still couldn't fulfill his wish. Ling Yushu thought that it was because his wish was very great and noble. His wish was to put an end to the wishing world. The guy knew that even in the wishing world, not all wishes could come true, but he believed that someone had to do it all the time to destroy the wishing world. Looking back on his life, he believed that the wishing world should not exist. Ling Yushu wondered to Wang Ming if they would be able to grab his leg after such revelations. He was even willing to become Wang Ming's adopted son, remembering the story of Xu Piaoling wandering for half his life, only regretting that he had not met a wise master. Wang Ming was slightly surprised that he couldn't find the right words. Seeing Wang Ming's silence, Ling Yushu immediately grabbed his legs, saying that he thought Wang Ming was ready to become his adoptive father. Wang Ming told the guy to let go of his legs. Zhu Yao immediately asked if she should also call the guy her foster father. At this moment, someone knocked on the door of their room. Wang Ming, Zhu Yao, and Ling Yushu were immediately alert. Wang Ming asked who was knocking on their door. The girl behind the door said that she had some information she wanted to share. Opening the door slightly, Wang Ming was slightly surprised to see the girl in front of him. He remembered that Meng Yumian had summoned Kuchisake Onna to the villa, so he didn't see why he should believe her. Meng Yumian was interested in the ability that Wang Ming used. The girl decided to inform him that she also had an ability. With her ability, she could directly obtain one key clue for the trial in the wishing world. She even wanted to tell the guy the clue first as a sign of goodwill. Wang Ming was greatly surprised that there was even an ability to directly obtain a key clue to pass the trial. He immediately pointed out that this is a real scam and the use of cheats. Meng Yumian confessed that her clue said that there was actually a traitor lurking among the test participants. This news came as a complete surprise to the guy. The girl said that she had been through one test before, then one of the participants was a monster from the very beginning. He mixed with the other participants, constantly separated them, and secretly killed those who remained alone. There were over 100 people participating in that wish trial, but only 4 people survived in the end. Meng Yumian confessed that she came to the guy because he had a strong attack ability. She thought that if the guy could kill the traitor who was hiding among the participants, they could spend the remaining time in peace. Wang Ming thought that since the girl came to him and told him everything, she might already have a specific person who is the traitor. However, the girl didn't know the name of the traitor, but she thought that she would be able to figure him out very easily, because it was enough to use the elimination method. She noted that the guy had eliminated all the dangers before, so he could be excluded, and of course she also decided to exclude herself from the list of suspects, justifying it by the fact that she voluntarily told the guy the clue. She then inquired if Wang Ming knew the 2 people who were behind his back. Ling Yushu became indignant after hearing the unkind tone in the girl's words. Zhu Yao also denied that she was a traitor. Wang Ming immediately admitted that he and the girl knew each other, so he stood up for them. After hearing the guy's words, Meng Yumian decided to eliminate Zhu Yao and Ling Yushu from the list of suspects. She believed that whether it was an act of pretense or possession, it would be easy for people she knew to spot a trick. Suddenly, the tone of the girl's voice changed. Meng Yumian thought that if there was a traitor in this trial, then he would surely choose someone who had no ties with the others. Her gaze became frantic as she stated that since the 4 of them are beyond suspicion, their further plan is simple. Since the traitor must definitely be among the other players, they could simply eliminate all the other players, and then the threat would disappear by itself. Hearing the girl's words, Zhu Yao and Ling Yushu were startled. Wang Ming wondered if the girl had voiced the same method of elimination that the girl had originally boasted about. He reminded her that if you die in the wishing world, you would also disappear in the real world. Wang Ming pointed out that what the girl was talking about was not some kind of game, but an actual massacre. However, Meng Yumian was mad. She couldn't understand the guy's moral compass. The girl reminded that they were in the wishing world, where there were no laws of the real world. She had the clue and the guy had the power, so she thought that the most correct choice was to team up with the guy and then quickly pass the test. Wang Ming recalled his first trial on the bus, where the crowd almost threw a pregnant woman off the bus. The guy wanted to understand what it meant to make the most right choice. In the end, he recognized that the girl was right, that there is no order in this world, and even more so, there are no limits to the law. So to survive, to fulfill your desires, sometimes you have to do crazy things because of the circumstances. The girl was delighted. for she too believed that there was nothing more important than life. However, the guy reminded her that they were all human, which confused the girl. Wang Ming explained that even if this world causes the brave to die in vain, the merciful to kill, and those seeking salvation to despair, and even if the selfishness and cruelty in human nature outweigh the greatness of the soul, they are still all human. He didn't know if he could get out of this world alive, but he definitely knows that his humanity shouldn't disappear in this place, so he decided to refuse the girl's offer. Meng Yumian was furious that the guy refused her offer. She even thought the guy was too naive. The girl thought that in the wishing world, mercy was the most ridiculous thing. She even remarked that maybe the guy thought he was very strong, that he could safely walk away and let a god fulfill his cherished wish. She then inquired what Zhu Yao and Ling Yushu thought about it. Ling Yushu felt that his foster father's choice was his choice. Zhu Yao didn't want to hurt anyone unnecessarily either. Meng Yumian was incredibly angry and emotional, calling them all crazy. Wang Ming realized that the girl didn't share the clue unselfishly, but just saw how he had dealt with the monsters earlier, and so she wanted to take advantage of him. Wang Ming promised that he would also give her a return clue later as a token of gratitude, but the cooperation the girl offered was out of the question. Wang Ming then told the girl to leave, slamming the door in front of her nose. Standing in front of the closed door, the girl continued to call the two guys and the girl a bunch of lunatics who were looking for death themselves. Ling Yushu admired his foster father, noting that his speech was awesome. Zhu Yao also thought the guy's speech was awesome. Proudly cocking his head upwards, the guy asked them not to worry, as it was a common thing for him. Ling Yushu recalled that he and Zhu Yao had told how they got to the wishing world, but they wondered how Wang Ming got to the wishing world. The guy proudly stated that his name was Wang Ming and that he was an ordinary person. Zhu Yao and Ling Yushu were not impressed by the guy's story. They were clearly expecting more details about how the guy had gotten to the wishing world. Thinking about it, Wang Ming didn't know what else to tell them. After all, if he told them that all of his internal organs had been removed from his body, they would be scared to death. So Wang Ming decided to change the subject, reminding them that based on their experience, as long as all the players didn't call out the names of the monsters, then they were all safe. And since there was no danger right now, they needed to have time to rest. Wang Ming volunteered to be on duty for the first half of the night. Smoothly, the time approached nightfall, which was unsafe given the location of the villa. The countdown to the end of the trial was still 10 days, as only 13 hours had passed since the beginning of the trial. While Zhu Yao and Ling Yushu were sleeping peacefully, Wang Ming was sitting on a chair and drinking tea. He was incredibly bored, so while he had time, he decided to study the divine sequence he possessed. Divine sequence, logical chain, reinforcement. Through the establishment of a logic chain, temporarily amplifies the level of divine gift, spirit, physique, strength, and so on. The guy was surprised to learn that divine sequence had levels. Spirit, physique, strength were all clear to him, but he didn't understand what a divine gift level was. Suddenly, there was a creaking sound in the silence of the night. Wang Ming noticed that the sound came from the next room, assuming it was the sound of someone's footsteps. Wang Ming was surprised to hear the sound of a door opening, as the neighboring room was a doll warehouse and no one lived there. From this noise, Ling Yushu woke up abruptly. He immediately asked his foster father what the sound was coming from the hallway. Wang Ming asked the guy to calm down while he was about to go to see where the noise was coming from. Wang Ming slowly walked to the door and then looked through the door peephole. Based on the sound coming from the door, he assumed that whoever was making the sound must be at the door, but there was no one there. There was no one outside, but the guy could clearly hear someone knocking on their door, which scared him incredibly. However, at this moment, Ling Yushu called out to him, instructing him to look at the gap at the bottom of the door. The guy leaned toward the door, revealing small feet behind the door. Now he was not surprised that no one could be seen through the door peephole, for it turned out that one of the dolls was knocking on the door. At this moment, the doll's eye dropped under the door, and through the door crack crept into the room. He appeared incredibly quickly and unexpectedly right in front of the frightened guy's face. Wang Ming abruptly got up from the floor, and Ling Yushu approached him from behind. The guy complained, noting that he didn't believe that Ling Yushu had a divine sequence. Luck, after all, there were a large number of rooms in the villa, but the monsters somehow came to them first. Ling Yushu couldn't understand why this was the case either. Wang Ming was already too tired of all these monsters and mystery. With a powerful swipe of his left foot, he stomped the eye that had rolled into their room. As soon as he did that, there was an immediate knock on their door. From the fact that there was a loud knocking on the door, Ju Yao woke up and didn't realize what was happening. The blonde man asked the girl not to worry, for they would definitely protect her. A moment later, the doll kicked the door and it flew towards the guys. Wang Ming immediately commanded the guy to step aside. There was a monstrous aura emanating from the one-eyed doll standing in the doorway. Ling Yushu couldn't figure out what they should do in such a situation. Wang Ming couldn't find any other solution but to fight, so he lightning-fast rushed towards the doll. The doll also didn't wait for its fate, rushing towards the guy. Since Wang Ming had no other choice, he used the evil spirit card and then dealt a powerful blow to the puppet. However, at this moment, a huge number of plush toys and dolls appeared in the doorway of the room. Wang Ming was too exposed to the evil spirit, so he rushed out to destroy the other toys and dolls. Grabbing the candlestick, Ling Yushu asked that the toys stay away from them. The girl also tried to defend herself but was too scared. At this moment, when it seemed like it couldn't get any worse, a hand appeared in the doorway. The monsters that Wang Ming had dealt with earlier reappeared. At this time, there were also monsters walking in the corridor of the villa. As it turned out, the night parade of 100 demons had begun, which was not surprising considering that the villa was located in a graveyard. Screams for help could be heard throughout the villa from the players who had been captured and taken by surprise by the monsters. Before their deaths, the players couldn't understand where so many monsters had come from. With a powerful arm strike, Wang Ming sent Kuchisake Onna to the floor. A frightening aura emanated from him as he approached Kuchisake Onna. The guy didn't understand why so many monsters appeared this time. He wondered who had activated the mechanism for so many monsters to appear. He realized that if things continued like this, the 3-minute evil spirit card wouldn't save him. The evil spirit, sensing an opportunity, immediately began to offer the guy a deal, promising to give the guy more time and more power. In addition, he promised that this way the current crisis would definitely be resolved. However, the guy grabbed the evil spirit, not wanting to make a deal with him, because he did not know the terms, but nothing good was definitely not waiting for him after the deal. So the guy did not let the evil spirit take advantage of his weakness, deciding to survive without the evil spirit. The evil spirit didn't insist on the deal, wanting to see how the guy could manage without his help. Ling Yushu complained that his skill seemed to have a cooldown. He tried to activate his divine sequence again and again while shouting the word luck. It turned out that luck was currently a passive skill, so it couldn't be activated. Wang Ming disappointedly remarked that random wouldn't save a noob and donate wouldn't change fate. A multitude of toys surrounded Ling Yushu and then rushed at him to attack. Wang Ming told him to dodge the attacks. Grabbing the candlestick like a baseball bat, the girl asked the toys to stay away from her. The blonde man was still trying to fend off the toys as he continued his prayers for his luck to finally work. However, at that very moment, a monster appeared in front of him. That's when the guy felt like he was finished. He remembered how, when he was little, his father used to beat his mother while he cried in the corner. The father complained, insulting his wife in every possible way, that instead of giving him money to win back his gambling, she had gone and bought a cake. The woman begged her husband to stop gambling, reminding her husband that today was their son's birthday. However, this did not stop the man, and he told the woman to give him the money immediately, or he would kill her now. The poor helpless boy kept crying, asking his father to stop beating his mother. One night, the scoundrels took advantage of his mother. Then the beaten and destroyed woman was offered 500,000 yuan in exchange for her silence. Seeing the money involved, the husband promised to kill his wife if she didn't sign the papers the scoundrels needed. He was so happy to get the money when his wife signed the settlement agreement. That's when the boy first heard about the wishing game, because his father was so happy that the wishing game was real. His father had passed the test in the wishing world by asking for 500,000 yen with his wish, and this was the vile way his wish was granted. The poor boy was in complete shock at that moment. It was at that moment that Ling Yushu promised that he would definitely put an end to the wishing world. Being under the onslaught of a large number of toys, Wang Ming wondered if the blonde man's ability would work this time. Glowing golden in color and with a newfound determination to fulfill his most important wish, the guy was confident that he would succeed this time. It's not for nothing that they say, be afraid of your wishes. I wonder if Yun Li, the pregnant girl who, like Wang Ming, also survived the ordeal at the nursing home, will make an appearance in the future. It's only the first night, and already so many players are already out of this trial, and they still need to stay in the villa for 9 days. Is there a traitor among the players? Was there really someone who activated the night parade of 100 demons? Ling Yushu successfully managed to repel the monster's attacks with his ability. Even though the monsters surrounded him from all sides, he maintained his fighting spirit. The monsters didn't hold back either and rushed to attack. At the same time, the puppets ran up to the guy from behind and grabbed his legs. Ling Yushu couldn't keep his balance and immediately fell face down on the floor. Wang Ming immediately became indignant, not understanding whose idea it was to release Boruto and that it was not interesting at all, and also lasted a short time. The monsters with happy smiles encircled the guy who was still lying on the floor. Ling Yushu immediately asked for someone to rescue him. At this moment, Wang Ming saw something. The previously fearful Zhu Yao rushed with a candlestick towards the monster that was next to the guy. She put the candlestick into the monster's mouth so that the monster couldn't bite her. The girl, with her last strength, and still in a scared and trembling voice, told the monster to stay away. She thought back to all the support Ling Yushu had given her, how he had found a restaurant that had really good food and wanted to treat her, how he found that bastard who was hurting her and beat him up again. He was worried that the girl wasn't answering his calls. The guy was worried that the girl's stepfather was hurting her again. The guy was even willing to call the police to help the girl. He was the only person helping her, so she was willing to risk her life to save his, despite being incredibly cowardly. The girl was desperately fighting for her life. Wang Ming struggled to dodge the monster's attacks. He was extremely uneasy at this moment. Looking around the third-floor room they were in, he realized more and more that it couldn't go on like this for much longer. Wang Ming also still didn't understand how to use the divine sequence. He found it strange that he suddenly needed to shout like Ling Yushu to activate the divine sequence. In the end, he gave up, telling his logic chain to work. He wanted to channel the divine sequence to enhance his strength. However, he suddenly discovered that the logic was wrong. He thought that perhaps it was simply that he was too strong, and that was why his strength was able to increase manifold. However, he still saw the inscription that the logic was wrong. The information he received made him incredibly furious, causing a vein on his forehead to throb. When the monsters got too close to him, he suddenly found a solution to his problem. He stated that because he practiced regularly, therefore his strength was extremely great. Only after this answer, everything around him glowed green, and a sign that his logic was correct showed up. Due to him answering correctly, the use of his divine sequence was approved. Suddenly, everything around him glowed with golden energy, causing the monsters around him to be thrown away from him. He immediately threw the monsters away from him, as if creating a stone wall, which he used to hit the monsters. The monsters stared suspiciously at the guy who had a golden aura emanating from him. Ling Yushu was incredibly excited, declaring that his foster father was his support. Zhu Yao was also surprised at how strong Wang Ming appeared to be. It was as if the guy had gained an ability similar to that of Liserg Dethel. He was ecstatic after realizing how his divine sequence, logic chain, worked. Looking at his fist and the golden chains around it, he noted that compared to the evil spirit card, his divine sequence was much more powerful. Still looking at his hands, he felt that he was incredibly strong right now. Easily tossing the monsters surrounding him aside, he felt his strength had indeed increased. The monsters felt no fear, so they decided to attack the guy again. Ling Yushu was worried about his new foster father, so he asked him to be more careful as the monsters once again decided to attack his foster father. However, Wang Ming thought that the monsters' attack was not that scary, because he would definitely deal with them now. He rushed forward with incredible speed, leaving a yellow trail behind him as if he was yellow lightning. At full speed, he threw the monsters into the wall. Then, walking over to the defeated monsters, he examined them. After deciding that the monsters in their room were finished, the guy thought about going to the second floor and helping the other players. After going down to the second floor, the guy noticed that the other guy with glasses wasn't having much trouble. Meng Yumian, who was standing next to the guy with glasses, had a chainsaw in her hands in general. Wang Ming immediately realized that these players also had items from the wishing world. The guy only smiled after realizing the situation. After all, while the others were holding back the other monsters, he only had to deal with the remaining 3 monsters that had pounced on him. The shouts of the players and the battles with the monsters still continued to echo throughout the villa. Soon morning came, signaling that the 100-demon night parade was over. All the survivors went down to the living room on the first floor of the villa. Courier noted fearfully that if it wasn't for the items a few players had, they would have all likely died. He sadly noted that there were 10 people left out of 24. The courier was terrified because it had only been one day and already more than half of the players were dead. Sitting on the couch, Wang Ming tiredly noted that Ling Yushu's luck was not helping. The blonde man thought with a smile that it couldn't be said that it wasn't working since he was still alive. He joyfully stated that he had finally realized what his ability was. Ling Yushu folded his hands in the shape of a heart, smilingly noting that meeting Wang Ming was the luck of his life. Wang Ming seemed to not like the blonde man's answer. He asked the blonde man if the blonde man's luck could work on others. Ling Yushu believed that in theory, his luck ability should act on other people. Even though it was a passive skill, in his mind, luck could protect other people besides him. Wang Ming wondered if the ability had a cooldown or its own price for use. Ling Yushu realized that using divine sequence and wish items had its own price, but he unfortunately couldn't yet figure out what the price of luck was. He even assumed that the failures that were happening to him were the price for using luck. Wang Ming seriously thought about the guy's words. Thinking back to the time he spent with him at the villa, he realized that what constantly happened to Ling Yushu was similar to Ling Yushu's assumption. The blonde man wondered what the price was for using Wang Ming's divine ability. Wang Ming thought that his price for using divine abilities might also be failure when he remembered the time he was bitten by a zombie. He admitted that after he activated the ability, the zombie, which was not yet fully dead, immediately bit him on the leg. There were a lot of people around, but it bit him. Lucky for the guy, the zombie had no teeth, so he was fine. Ling Yushu instantly realized that Wang Ming was implying that Ling Yushu's luck had compensated for the price Wang Ming had to pay for using the ability. Wang Ming had assumed this development based on yesterday's situation, where the price of his logic chain seemed to be some kind of accident that should have happened to the guy. If everything was as the guy thought, then his accident could have been prevented due to Ling Yushu's luck. Ling Yushu came to be delighted and even cheerfully said that they could be perfect partners then. At the same moment, Ling Yushu noticed Meng Yumian walking with a chainsaw towards them. The joy from the guy's face instantly left. Still sitting on the sofa and looking at Meng Yumian, the guy asked if she was looking for him. The girl suddenly decided to introduce herself. She stated that her name was Meng Yumian. She then revealed that this was the 3rd time she had entered the wishing world. Her chainsaw was an object of desire, and her divine ability was seer. Meng Yumian even confessed that the first time she entered the wishing world, she had resurrected her dead son. However, her son had become incredibly frightening. Every day he needed to eat fresh raw meat. When Meng Yumian entered the wishing world for the 2nd time and passed the test, her wish was for her son to become a normal person again. Her wish was granted, but her son soon fell ill with leukemia. Meng Yumian wished this time to make a wish that her son's body would become completely healthy. With a frightening look, she declared that once she passed the current game, her son would be fine. The girl put her chainsaw on the floor, then knelt down and cried. Sobbing, she confessed that she had told the guy all her cards. She was well aware that she was selfish, but nevertheless she was a mother who would stop at nothing for the sake of her child. Meng Yumian stated that the guy saw for himself what happened last night. So many people had died last night, so she believed that if they didn't deal with the traitor, there was no chance that they could survive the next night. Kneeling down, she begged the guy to team up with her and kill the others, so that together they could end the nightmare they all found themselves in. Wang Ming questioned the girl if he understood correctly that her divine sequence was called seer. The girl confirmed that her divine sequence was called seer. which was why she was able to find out the key information that there was a traitor among the players. After listening to her explanation, the guy clearly pointed out that he couldn't be sure that the girl herself wasn't a traitor. Kneeling on the floor, Meng Yumian didn't understand what Guy was saying to her. Wang Ming explained to her that although she had a good reason, since a real mother would do anything for her child, but he couldn't exclude the girl from the list of suspects. After all, the real traitor, like the girl herself, wants to kill the other players. Getting up from the floor, the girl realized that the guy just couldn't trust her. Wang Ming admitted that his original intentions haven't changed, so he refuses to pass the current test by killing other players. Otherwise, he would have killed all the players long ago, as none of them were his equals. After thinking over the information she received, the girl realized what the guy was trying to convey to her. Upset, but determined to do everything in her power for her son, she left the 3 players. Looking after her, Ling Yushu decided to ask her adoptive father if the girl would start acting on her own. Wang Ming believed that the girl was incapable of taking action. Previously, she didn't dare to act alone because she was afraid that there was someone among the other players that she couldn't handle. After last night, Meng Yumian realized that the one who was chopping monsters with a cleaver was almost equal to her, and since they didn't cooperate with the girl, she wouldn't dare to act. After listening to his adoptive father, Ling Yushu wondered what they should do next. Pondering his next steps, Wang Ming suggested that if he continued to stay close to Ling Yushu, he could use Ling Yushu's divine sequence to avoid being absorbed by the evil spirit. Therefore, he pointed at the blonde man with the index finger of his right hand and stated that he should look for clues. He reminded the blonde man that he had luck. Wang Ming told the guy to walk around the villa and maybe then the guy could find the key clue. Ling Yushu was greatly surprised to hear such a mission. He thought that what Wang Ming was telling him was to suit the protagonist's aura, and he himself didn't consider himself a protagonist. Wang Ming stated that he wasn't kidding about looking for clues. The last time he himself had entered the wishing world, he had only been able to pass the test by avoiding the trap by following various scattered bits of information. This time, it was much worse, as other than the information about the traitor that Meng Yumian had provided, they didn't have any clues. The countdown to the end of the mission was 9 days, and the progress on the clues was 0. Ling Yushu then turned to Zhu Yao. He reminded her that since he and Wang Ming were near each other, the next time there was danger, the girl should not be foolish and block him from the monsters. He, as a man, was ashamed that he couldn't protect the girl, so he couldn't let the girl die before him. The guy gave the girl his tessar for cutting bones so that the girl could defend herself. Zhu Yao informed the blonde man that she hadn't thought of such things, so she apologized to the guy. Ling Yushu felt that he was the one who should be thanking the girl. He also asked her to be meaner, because then others wouldn't dare to offend her. The girl with innocent eyes agreed with the guy. He even asked the girl to yell at him, and when the girl got nervous, he told her to yell at him again. But the girl wasn't ready for that and asked for forgiveness with a trembling voice. Wang Ming was increasingly worried about one thing. The monsters that appeared last night were clearly much stronger than the ones that appeared during the day. He decided to take the encounters with Kuchisake Onna as an example. He had killed her with the power of evil spirit during the day, but last night the power of logic chain was clearly much stronger than evil spirit, but it was harder to deal with Kuchisake Onna. Based on the situation, he made the assumption that the strength of monsters increased with time or the number of appearances, which meant that at the end of this trial there was a chance that he himself wouldn't be able to stand up to the monsters. Zhu Yao immediately started apologizing, stating that she was ruining everything. Wang Ming felt that their situation was not the girl's fault. In addition, he pointed out that Ling Yushu was only slightly stronger than the girl. To the blonde man, those words felt like a blow to the head. He stated that the foster father was so perceptive. Wang Ming continued his speech about monsters. Previously, they had assumed that the monster's appearance mechanism was due to the action of speaking. If this mechanism was correct, then they did not know who was able to summon so many monsters last night. It's unknown why the traitor didn't continue to summon new monsters, if in fact the monsters were summoned by the traitor. Besides, based on this logic, the traitor could have summoned a more terrifying monster to finish off the other players. After analyzing the situation, Wang Ming concluded that the original monster summoning mechanism was no longer working. The blond man agreed with his foster father's conclusion. Wang Ming admitted that he had a way to figure out the traitor without killing other players. In addition, he guessed how he could figure out the true cause of the monsters. The blonde wondered what was the best way to figure out the traitor. Wang Ming asked the girl to step aside for now, as he wanted to talk to the guy in confidence. He also asked the girl not to overhear their conversation, and if there was any danger, he asked the girl to shout so that they could hear. The girl agreed to do what Wang Ming told her without a second thought. Ling Yushu, looking at the trailing girl, told Wang Ming that there was no need to hide anything from the girl. Zhu Yao was very kind, so he didn't believe that the girl could ever harm them. The blond man also revealed that the girl was constantly bullied at school. He noted that Wang Ming had only encountered them during the bullying once, while for the girl, the bullying had happened so many times that she couldn't even remember all the instances anymore. They poured chalk into her glass, shredded her textbooks and backpack, smeared glue on her chair and desk, and even poured dirty water on the girl. School for the girl was scarier than the wishing world. The girl's family was much scarier than school. Her stepfather was a bastard who constantly tried to harass the girl. The guy did not understand at all how the girl in such an environment was able to keep a good heart and not embitter the whole world. Wang Ming asked the blond man not to worry because he didn't want to exclude the girl from their group. The girl's temporary sidelining was just a necessary part to test his hunch. The blond man was glad that it wasn't that bad. Now Wang Ming cut to the chase, stating that last night while on duty, he had secretly called out the name of a certain monster. The blond man was scared that his foster father had done something similar. Wang Ming admitted that he just wanted to test the mechanism. If the monster had actually appeared, he would have easily dispatched the monster. However, even though he had given the monster's name, the monster still hadn't appeared. Based on his inspection, Wang Ming concluded that the real mechanism for monsters to appear was to mention the monster in the presence of a traitor or some specific person. The blond man was surprised by his foster father's boldness. However, Wang Ming also noticed one potential vulnerability in the rules of the game. When Meng Yumian told them the information about the traitor, they immediately ruled out the three of them as suspects. But it was possible that in the game, the traitor himself might not know that he was actually a traitor. Ling Yushu realized that with the method Wang Ming came up with, it was possible to truly exclude the traitor. Wang Ming ordered the blond man to call out the monster's name, and if the monster appeared, Wang Ming would finish it off with a single blow. Ling Yushu raised his right hand up and told the fallen maiden, the Queen of Spades, to appear. However, the monster never appeared beside them. Wang Ming was encouraged that the method seemed to be working, so he told the guy to continue and name some more monsters. Ling Yushu didn't hold back in his choice of monsters. He declared for the Black Mountain Elder to return Nezuko to him. He then informed Kibutsuji Muzan that he had Blue Spider Lily. In addition, he stated that for the sake of Satoru Gojo, Ryomen Sukuna should show up in front of him and die. Wang Ming found himself slightly surprised by the choice of monsters from the guy's side. He stated that the blond man was incredibly brave. After all, if Sukuna appeared in front of them, how would they be able to defeat him? The blond man even wondered if the foster father wouldn't be able to defeat Kibutsuji Muzan. However, Wang Ming exhaled as the monsters that the blond man had named had not appeared, which meant that he could rule himself and the blond man out as suspects. According to his plan, the next thing they had to do was to find an empty room and then summon the other players and check on them one by one to find out which one of them was the traitor. Wang Ming kneaded his hands in anticipation, waiting to meet the traitor. Would Wang Ming be able to stand up to Kibutsuji Muzan and Ryomen Sukuna at the same time, given how quickly the blond man called them and everyone he called would show up? After that, they went up to a room on the third floor of the villa. Upon entering the room, Ling Yushu informs the guy that he has called everyone into the room, so they are all standing outside the door of the room, just waiting for further orders. Wang Ming asks the blond guy to be careful as well. After all, his way could surely provoke the traitor, and then the traitor will attack first. Ling Yushu asked his foster father if they need to check on Zhu Yao. Wang Ming couldn't believe that with the girl's character, she could be a traitor. Ling Yushu agreed with him since the girl was incredibly kind, but the way the foster father said it was a bit strange to him. Wang Ming was slightly displeased with such a claim. He told the guy to stop talking and open the door to greet the guests. The blonde guy winked at his foster father and went to open the door. The first to enter the room was Meng Yumian. She was extremely unhappy that in order to avoid killing anyone, the guy was going out of his way to come up with all sorts of stupid ways to solve the problem. However, she hoped that the guy's way would actually work. Wang Ming admitted that he was surprised by her behavior since he thought she would object. As she sat down on the chair, she pointed out that no one is born cruel and everything she does is only for the sake of the child. Sitting across from her on the couch, the guy began to repeat the rules. He again reminded the girl of the rules that she must say the monster's name in his presence, and in return he would also repeat that monster's name. If after all these actions the monster does not appear, then it means the girl is not a traitor. In addition, he reminded that before entering the room and after she leaves the room, she is obliged not to talk about monster names with anyone. Without putting it off, they decided to start right away. After that, the girl called out the names, Sadako, Kuchisake Onna, and the others, but nothing happened. All the people lined up in front of the door of the room. Soon they heard the next person being called. After several attempts, nothing changed in the villa. People went in and out of the room one by one. Some standing in line were still worried if this method would work. They even thought that the traitor was not among them at all. Finally, it was Zhu Yao's turn, who was very worried. The guy asked the girl if Ling Yushu had told her about their assumptions. The girl admitted that she understood everything. Wang Ming reminded her that when zombies appeared not too long ago, Ling Yushu had mentioned Tyrant, and then another player had mentioned Resident Evil. Back then, the girl didn't know what Tyrant was, but she knew that Resident Evil was a zombie movie. The guy asked the girl if he understood her correctly. The girl was incredibly frightened when she heard how the guy could call the names of monsters so calmly. Suddenly, as if out of nowhere, zombies began to appear. Everyone immediately began to point at the girl that she was the traitor they were looking for. A huge number of zombies rushed in their direction. Zhu Yao could not believe that she was a traitor. After all, she could not harm others. The realization that she was a traitor made her shake. She stammered and tried to justify that she wasn't a traitor. The guy calmly pointed out that he understood. He admitted that he had suspected the girl a long time ago, but he just didn't have any proof. And besides, he didn't want to believe it himself. He asked the girl to start by listening to his explanation of the mechanism of the monster's appearance. Initially, someone mentioned Sadako, and the girl knows Sadako's story and maybe even watched a movie about her, so Sadako appeared. Then Meng Yumian intentionally mentioned Kuchisake Onna, and it just so happened that the girl also knew about Kuchisake Onna, so she appeared. And finally Tyrant, who was mentioned by Ling Yushu. The girl didn't know what Tyrant was and only knew about zombies, so the zombies from the movie appeared. As for the 100 Demon Night Parade, the guy was on duty at night, and Ling Yushu and Zhu Yao were asleep at the time. Wang Ming, although he didn't know what the girl was dreaming about, but he had seen the girl's fear and tossing in her sleep, so the girl was sleeping rather restlessly. He even speculated that the appearance of monsters was not limited to just what the girl thought, and what the girl was dreaming about might also appear, but the girl just didn't notice it. The girl was shaking with fear. She understood what Wang Ming told her, but she just didn't know what to do in a situation like this. Zhu Yao couldn't contain her emotions anymore and started crying. She blamed herself for the deaths of others and asked for forgiveness. He came closer to the girl and put his hand on her shoulder, asking that the girl not to be afraid. The guy asked that the girl not to blame herself, for she is the key to their survival. He even asked the girl not to even think about it. Suddenly he realized that he had made a fatal mistake. If you say to a person, "Don't think of a pink elephant," the person will imagine a pink elephant on the contrary. The guy realized that before, Zhu Yao did not realize that she was a traitor, so she did not think about all these things too much and just subconsciously followed the rules. However, now, even if he didn't speak up, Zhu Yao still couldn't help herself and would think about all the scary monsters. At the same instant, the other players screamed Sadako and Kuchisake Onna began to appear. After that, the dolls appeared and grabbed one of the players. Suddenly, a noise started coming from behind the door as someone was knocking on it. The girl immediately got excited when she heard the knocking on the door. The door of the room shattered into pieces and an enraged Meng Yumian and her chainsaw broke in. They had found the traitor, so Meng Yumian wanted to kill the girl so it would finally be over. The guy asked Meng Yumian to stop, but it was like her eyes were filled with anger and she couldn't hear him. Zhu Yao dodged the chainsaw aimed at her in fear. In the same instant, behind her, hair began to grow at an incredible pace. The hair rushed towards the chainsaw and entangled the chainsaw. Instantly, the chainsaw entangled by the hair was broken into many pieces, causing Meng Yumian to be surprised. Then a giant-sized monster with long hair began to form behind the girl. The monster saw the guy and then tried to attack him. However, Zhu Yao asked the monster in fear not to do so. The girl watched fearfully and asked the monsters to stop doing all these horrible things. Players took turns being grabbed by monsters, and players called out for someone to help them. Wang Ming asked the girl to think of something good. Hearing the guy, the girl began to think about what good things she could think of. Remembering all the horrible moments in her life, the girl couldn't realize if there was even one good moment in her life. Suddenly, a red portal formed behind Wang Ming and Ling Yushu, and a hand appeared behind them. Then, an incredibly hideous and at the same time disgusting monster appeared from the portal. Ling Yushu instantly realized that the girl's greatest fear had materialized in front of them. The girl's stepfather appeared in front of them. He then saw that one by one, all those who were bullying Zhu Yao began to appear in the form of monsters. The girl was grabbing her head with her hands, trying to stop all this madness. Wang Ming realized that the situation had become incredibly bad. Ling Yushu emphasized that even the jerks who had bullied the girl when their foster father met them had appeared in front of them in the form of monsters. Wang Ming quickly realized that Zhu Yao could now not only summon monsters, but also create them. It turned out that what Zhu Yao was actually most afraid of was not zombies and other imaginary monsters, but she was actually afraid of her pervert stepfather and school bullies. All those disgusting people were the root of evil. If nothing else, it would be harder for players to deal with these monsters than with Kuchisake Onna and other fictional monsters. While Wang Ming was distracted by thinking about their situation, the girl's stepfather had already gotten too close to him. The monster attacked the guy, but the guy managed to dodge at the last moment with his reflexes. Wang Ming was well aware that thoughts were impossible to control, and that even if Zhu Yao didn't want the monsters to cause harm, the ones in her subconscious were still terrifying. Since he had no way to escape, he decided that he would fight. Meanwhile, the other players in the corridor were trying to escape from the monsters. The monster grabbed Meng Yumian by the neck with his hand and lifted her above the floor, then licked her face with his long tongue. He wondered where this girl was going to run away from him. Meng Yumian gasped and told the monster to let her go. The monster tried to snap Meng Yumian's neck, causing the girl's eyes to roll back and her neck to be broken. Ling Yushu, who was being attacked by monsters from all sides, also asked for his foster father to save him and help him. Zhu Yao was squatting holding her head. She absolutely did not want the horrors that were currently happening in this cursed villa. The girl kept accusing herself of all the deadly sins, absolutely not understanding why she always became the source of all the troubles and other people suffered because of her. She did not understand what she had done wrong in her life at all, that so much misfortune had fallen on her. When she was a child, there was an accident when they were traveling. Everything around them burned. Only she and her mom managed to get out of the car. The girl kept calling for her father, who never managed to get out of the car. After that terrible accident, her mom remarried. Zhu Yao thought that things were finally getting better in their lives. However, her stepfather started harassing her all the time. He offered to help her, rubbing her shoulders. The girl tried to refuse the stepfather's tempting offer. Her room was the safest place for her, where she could hide from the perverted stepfather. However, her stepfather soon installed a video camera in her room, so even in her room she could not hide from her stepfather. Even on that ill-fated day, the stepfather still tried to sneak into the bathroom and wash Zhu Yao's back. Such actions of the stepfather led to horrifying consequences. At that moment, Ling Yushu was constantly texting the girl and wondering how she was feeling. He was worried that something had happened to the girl, as she had not answered his calls and messages for a long time. Suddenly, a strange app appeared on her phone, and someone mysterious asked her to listen to the whisper of God. The girl kept asking herself questions. Would those people feel guilt or regret for their actions? Would they blame themselves for bullying her like that and for pushing the innocent her into the abyss? She knew full well the answers to her questions, that those who bullied her would never regret anything. Years from now, those vile people would forget about all the atrocities. In the meantime, she will remember it all, and those wounds will never heal on her heart. At first, in the eyes of outsiders, she was bullied. However, over time people got used to her bullying and even began to look for the problem in her. They asked her disgusting questions. Why do you provoke them? Why don't you tell the teacher? Why don't you go to the police? Why are you still in this school? She never forgave any incident. Eventually, she just got tired, so she accepted it. But that didn't mean she forgot about all the horrible things all the abusers did to her. Ju Yao began to absorb all the evil and terrifying energy that was emanating around her. Her face changed dramatically, and then she declared that she wasn't born to be bullied by other people. A frightening aura began to emanate from the girl, and she was ready to destroy anyone who came near her. Ling Yushu was having an incredibly hard time dealing with the monster's attack. Wang Ming called out to the girl once again. The guy noticed that many of the offending monsters had moved closer to the girl. The girl's gaze was already faded, and she gave in to all the emotions that were bubbling up inside her. However, at this moment, she remembered Wang Ming. She remembered how he had once chased away the bullies who were bullying her. The guy asked the girl not to be afraid because those who bullied her were in the same stream as him, and he was supposed to graduate soon, so the girl wouldn't see the bullies again. Besides, the guy asked the girl to be brave, because only then no one would dare to offend her. Ju Yao thanked the guy, noting that this was the first time someone wanted to help her. With a smile on her face, Wang Ming asked her to call out his name if anyone tried to offend her again. Such words from the guy even made the girl's cheeks blush slightly. He also clarified that his name was Wang Ming. The girl's stepfather rushed towards the guy, while the guy pondered the fact that this test of desire wasn't something that could be passed only by brute force at all. Ling Yushu was already lying on the floor when he was kicked to the floor by the prototype bully monsters. After noticing the many monsters around him, the guy made the decision that even if he was swallowed up, he still had to use the evil spirit card. However, at this moment, the monster that was the incarnation of the girl's stepfather disappeared before his eyes. Ling Yushu and Wang Ming, with perplexed faces, were trying to figure out what had just happened in the first place. Quite quickly, they noticed that Ju Yao had found a solution to the problem and decided to get out of this disgusting game on her own terms. She confessed that the wind had once blown in her direction, and she must hold the light for the sake of the wind. With tears in her eyes, she asked the guy if she was brave now. At that moment, her body shimmered with a bright light. Wang Ming and Ling Yushu stood still with shocked faces, trying to realize what had just happened before their eyes. The girl fell to the floor with a thunderous crash, thinking that she was incredibly brave. Ling Yushu couldn't believe that the girl had died and that she was gone. When Wang Ming tried to approach her, the huge chandelier above him faltered, and then the huge chandelier rumbled and fell behind him. The guy was annoyed and worried because if he had walked a little later under the chandelier, it would have fallen on his head. He immediately shifted his gaze to Ling Yushu, deciding to clarify if Ling Yushu's luck had worked on him. Ling Yushu confirmed his assumption with a trembling voice. The guy refused to believe that the girl had died. He ran up to her, calling the girl's name repeatedly, as if trying to rouse her from her sleep. However, contrary to his wish, the knife entered too deep into his throat, so deep that Ju Yao's body had already started to cool down, and even his luck was powerless in this case. The guy started sobbing from helplessness, tears rolling down his face like this. He didn't understand why the girl did this. The guy couldn't understand why Ju Yao was the one who was hurt. He clutched his hands on his head, hysterically unable to understand why his divine sequence was luck and only misfortunes were happening around him. After all, Ju Yao had died just like everyone else from their group of players. The guy roared at his powerlessness. His scream echoed throughout the empty hall of the villa. He even became angry that this was really the only way to pass this test. The guy clung in vain to the possibility that there must have been another way to pass the trial. Wang Ming did not change his mind, confirming that there might have been another way to pass the trial. However, he pointed out that they would not have reached the point where things would have calmed down. He explained to Ling Yushu that Ju Yao didn't want to harm them, that she didn't want to harm anyone at all. However, a person's thoughts are hard to control, so Zhu Yao took a shortcut and sacrificed herself so that they could live. He asked the guy if he remembered what this place looked like in the beginning. He then pulled towards the disemboweled teddy bear on the floor. He made the assumption that this scene was created from Zhu Yao's inner world from the beginning and that this place was most likely her fortress. After these words from the guy, Ling Yushu admitted that he had been friends with Zhu Yao for a long time. He remembered the girl telling him that a high school student had helped her before. She had listened to that high school student, had the courage to face life, and that was the only reason why she had been able to hold on until today. He inquired if Wang Ming knew who that person was. And then, without waiting for an answer to his question, he confessed that this person was Wang Ming. Wang Ming immediately remembered the girl and how he had once chased away the guys who were once again bullying her. He had reached out to the girl who was in desperate need of help. Wang Ming did not expect at all to meet that girl again in such a disgusting situation. However, he asked Ling Yushu not to be sad because the girl still had a chance. Ling Yushu was shocked after hearing his words. The guy couldn't believe that Wang Ming was implying that they should ask the God of Wishes to resurrect the girl. He grabbed Wang Ming's shoulder and resolutely stated that under no circumstances should he do anything like this to the girl. After all, people resurrected in this manner were not human at all afterward. He knew that Zhu Yao was a kind person, and if they asked the God of Wishes to resurrect her, the girl's soul would not find peace. Guy believed that there was no way the girl would want to live such a life. He thought that such an option was worse than death. Wang Ming agreed with him and then added that he had also heard about wish-granting. As soon as he heard about it, he decided that he would never resurrect anyone. However, the guy optimistically asked Ling Yushu not to forget that there were currently 2 of them, so they could ask the God of Wishes to grant 2 wishes. Ling Yushu looked at him perplexedly. Wang Ming then asked Ling Yushu if he was willing to give up his original wish to help Zhu Yao. The guy's eyes lit up with hope as he said that he was willing to help Zhu Yao. All the monsters had disappeared. No dangers occurred during the remaining time. The villa had enough supplies of food and water. However, after everything that had happened, Wang Ming and Ling Yushu were going through the hardest time. 10 days after the game started, the huge front door of the villa suddenly opened. Wang Ming and Ling Yushu were surprised when the door suddenly opened. Butcher was the one who opened the front door to the villa. Ling Yushu stood there with his mouth open. Wang Ming immediately grabbed the evil spirit card, not realizing who the stranger was. Nevertheless, he felt an incredibly strong pressure coming from the stranger. Suddenly, the stranger started laughing at the guys and the girl. He thought that sacrificing oneself for others was ridiculous. Ling Yushu, hearing the stranger's words, was shocked, and Wang Ming was wary. Butcher admitted that he had never thought that the guys would be so lucky to see such a funny moment. Wang Ming didn't share his words and didn't understand at all why the stranger suddenly started laughing. He thought that since this situation was a joke to the stranger, it was all because of the squalor of the stranger himself. After all, just because of this, the stranger can't empathize with people and thinks everything that happened was a joke. Wang Ming pointed out that all great things are born from the ordinary, and all glory begins with caviar. Therefore, he thought that it was the stranger who was funny and not something else. Butcher swung his foot around and kicked the floor with it, causing the floor to start cracking in all directions. He threateningly asked the guy if the guy was afraid that he would just kill him. However, Wang Ming didn't even flinch after the direct threat from Butcher towards him. Butcher even praised the guy when he noticed that the guy had long ago realized that because of the restrictions and rules of the wishing world, he couldn't hurt them. Wang Ming realized that the stranger, just like Creepy Girl, by some rules could not harm the players. However, based on this assumption, what they experienced in the world of desire was not something isolated, which meant that there was another, watching monster behind all these events. The man suddenly laughed. He informed the guys that everyone calls him Butcher, even though he doesn't like that name. Suddenly, Butcher thrust his cleaver into the floor, calling out to the owner of the villa. In the same instant, he found the girl and began taunting the guys that the villa owner was dead because of them. After that, he congratulated the surviving guys that they would now be able to hear the whisper of a god. A piece of paper appeared in Wang Ming and Ling Yushu's hands, where they were to write down their wish. Wang Ming reminded Ling Yushu that they should not use the word resurrect this time. Ling Yushu agreed with this decision. Then one of them wrote that Zhu Yao should keep her original goodness, and the other asked that Zhu Yao should have beautiful memories. Wang Ming thought that with beautiful memories, with original kindness, in an unknown place, she would still be that Zhu Yao. Suddenly, he heard that by heeding the whisper of a god, his wish would be granted. However, at this moment, he stared at his right hand as something began to appear in his hand. A moment later, some sort of small blade materialized in his right hand. The guy assumed it was a new item of desire. He received the blade of shrieking. He heard a whisper about whether he was sure he didn't want to experience the sharpness of the blade on his own body and hear his own scream. Such a thing made his hand twitch, as if the blade had suddenly gotten heavier. In the same instant, Wang Ming dispelled the blade from his hand. The blade seemed incredibly creepy to him, as he had only grasped the blade and already horrible thoughts had appeared in his mind. Suddenly, the entire villa trembled as if it was ready to collapse. Wang Ming immediately guessed that the current game had come to an end. However, Butcher wasn't done with him yet and wanted to make fun of the guy one last time. He asked the guy whether or not the guy thought the mother and daughter got rescued from the nursing home. In the still crumbling villa, Wang Ming was annoyed by Butcher's words, trying to figure out what Butcher had done to them. The guy realized that it looked like the monster watching over the nursing home was also Butcher. Butcher was amused by the whole situation. He told the guy to go back to the wishing world to see for himself what he had done to the mother and daughter from the nursing home. Lastly, Wang Ming promised that if he had the chance, he would definitely visit them. Also, if he had the chance, he would personally finish Butcher off. After a moment, they were still in the same alley where Wang Ming had come to the wishing world from earlier. Then the cat Xiaobai, who was being looked after by Zhu Yao, approached them. Wang Ming petted the cat while Ling Yushu asked him if the cat was waiting for Zhu Yao to return. Wang Ming decided to look after the cat himself for the time being. The guy decided to talk to the cat, noting that he knew Zhu Yao had rescued it. However, the girl had gone elsewhere, so he would keep an eye on it. He even asked the cat's permission to call him Yao Yao. The cat didn't seem to mind such a name and purred happily. Taking the cat in his arms, he wondered if Creepy Girl had left and was waiting for him around the corner. At that moment, they finally noticed the motorcycle that was parked next to them. The situation seemed strange to Wang Ming, while Ling Yushu admired the motorcycle. Then behind their backs, they sensed the presence of another person. Turning around to her, Wang Ming directly asked her who she was. The girl did not hide anything and immediately stated that she was an investigator from the Divine Apparitions Investigation Bureau. Ling Yushu couldn't even fully pronounce the name of the bureau, so the girl once again named her organization. Xiao Wang said that she hoped the guys would cooperate, otherwise she threatened to use force. Ling Yushu pondered her words once more, but admitted that he still had never heard of this organization, so he asked what this organization did. Suddenly, the girl took out a flashlight and shined the flashlight in their direction. Finally, he came to the conclusion that they were finished. The authorities had been hiding information about Wishing World all along, so they assumed that the flashlight would definitely erase people's memories. At the same instant, Ling Yushu looked at Wang Ming. He grabbed his head with his hands and asked who the guy was. He stated that he had lost his memory and couldn't remember anything. Wang Ming also feigned surprise, admitting that he didn't understand what he was even doing here. However, Xiao Wang interrupted all this clowning by the guys. She asked the guys to stop pretending because the object that looked like a flashlight would just check if the person in front of her was a wish monster, and the object had no effect on memory at all. Ling Yushu grabbed his head, realizing that he was acting like a fool. Wang Ming even had to play along with him. The girl then told them to walk along with her. The guy couldn't understand where she was even taking them to. After that, he was incredibly surprised to see a large number of people waiting for them. The girl stated that they would go with her to the Divine Apparitions Investigation Bureau. Wang Ming seems to be completely unlucky in this life and is constantly getting into trouble and situations that test his humanity and whether he has lost it. After a while, Wang Ming and Ling Yushu arrived at the Divine Apparitions Investigation Bureau. A girl decided to talk to Wang Ming. In the office, she finally introduced herself to him and said her name was Ji Xiaowang. She also revealed that during the investigation, they were able to find out that Wang Ming had been pulled into the wishing world. In another office, Ling Yushu was also sitting in the exact same way. only in front of another employee. The man congratulated the guy on behalf of the entire Divine Apparitions Investigation Bureau for allowing the guy to return to the real world alive. However, the man was curious to get a few answers from the guy on what the guy was interested in. He hoped the guy would cooperate with them. After remaining silent for a bit, Ling Yushu asked for the man to ask his questions, and he did so instead of demanding a lawyer. Meanwhile, Xiao Wang wondered the guy if he knew why the authorities wanted to hide any information about the wishing world. Wang Ming thought that the authorities were withholding information about the existence of the wishing world because they were afraid of causing panic. The girl stated that this option was not quite right. She reminded the guy that the world of wishes can fulfill people's wishes, and the first way to get into it most often occurs when a person is on the verge of death, or when a certain wish reaches its extreme. Every person has desires. She even stated that if the guy doesn't believe her, he should ask the monks at the temple. The girl added that even if a person carries in his heart a true desire to save all living beings, it can also be considered a manifestation of the same desire. Therefore, the girl explained that if the existence of the wishing world became public, most people would not be able to control the desires in their hearts, leading to the frequent occurrence of wishful events. Desire would become a plague and spread quickly. This would result in panic, followed by countless deaths and chaos of order, rampant monsters, and the collapse of civilization. Therefore, Xiao Wang announced that the guy would have to sign a non-disclosure agreement later. She extremely hoped that the guy would honor this agreement. Xiao Wang once again clearly repeated her words to the guy, telling him not to tell ordinary people anything about the wishing world. The guy didn't even think about his answer for a long time, but simply agreed to her insistence. The second question from the girl's side was wondering what the guy knew about the wish monster. However, Wang Ming did not understand what else the wish monster was. Therefore, the girl pointed out that the entire experience of a person in the wishing world is that of a person who is challenged. But when the extreme wish is distorted, or after achieving multiple wishes, the wishing world will give players the opportunity to become executors and prevent players from completing their tasks. For executors, tasks become easier and wishes become easier to fulfill, but the price is transformation into wish monsters, although they can retain their human form before losing control completely. But they are no longer human, but puppets of desires, wish monsters who will go to any lengths to achieve their goals. After Xiao Wang's words, the first thing that came to his mind was the creepy girl who was the conductor during the bus ordeal. He now realized that she was a wish monster. Noticing the fact that the guy was starting to think about something, the girl slightly rose from her chair and leaned towards him. Xiao Wang stated that the guy seemed to know something. She explained that after he returned, they didn't just bring him to Divine Apparitions Investigation Bureau to ask him questions. She shared that they had previously caught the wish monster's breath at the place where the guy had entered the wishing world. Therefore, she confidently inquired from the guy that the guy most likely knows himself that he is being haunted by the wish monster. The guy realized that there was no point in denying it, so he exhaled heavily. After that, he explained that it was just as she had said earlier. He and the wish monster who was chasing him were riding on the bus, and then he briefly explained the situation. The guy asked Xiao Wang about his current situation. He was now more aware that he had gotten into trouble on his own head with the enforcer, the same wish monster. He admitted that at that moment he thought that she was just an NPC. Xiao Wang was a little surprised that he had mistaken the wish monster for an NPC. After that, she began to wonder if the guy had known beforehand that he could bring the monster upon himself, would he have decided to still save that pregnant woman or not? Wang Ming found this question quite tricky. In the end, he said that he could only say that the situation was difficult, but the advantage was on his side. The girl jumped up and banged her hands on the table as if the guy had failed the Voight Kampf test. She looked down at him, saying that he was the only one who had managed to bring his jokes to Wishing World. The guy, however, asked that she not look at him with that look. After all, because of his actions, he had managed to become a target for the Wish Monster in his first trial in the Wishing World. In the end, she said that in general the guy had done the right thing, because if he hadn't intervened then, that pregnant woman would have died. But because of that action, he had ruined the assignment for the conductor. The girl speculated that Creepy Girl probably had an item that prevented death. So after failing, she didn't die in the wishing world, but returned to the real world to take revenge on the guy. The guy even scoffed that this is what it really feels like when someone remembers you. After that, she said that the guy had nothing more to add about the wishing world. Then, after signing a confidentiality agreement, he could leave the Divine Apparitions Investigation Bureau building. But her words only caused a look of bewilderment on the guy's face. He immediately asked the girl to wait for now, and then said that he actually had more questions. Xiao Wang didn't immediately chase him out of the office, allowing him to ask her whatever he wanted. She regretted letting him ask her questions. The guy's mouth was a cornucopia of questions. He wondered why he and the Wish Monster were in the same city and if it was a mere coincidence. How did the Wish Monster find him? Did the girl have a boyfriend? Plus, he was curious to know the subtleties of a moment. After all, if it was confirmed that the Wish Monster wanted to kill him, then the Divine Apparitions Investigation Bureau agents should supposedly deal with the Wish Monster first. The guy stated that he wasn't really afraid of death, but that innocent people would suffer because of him. What a pure and sincere person appeared before the girl. The girl's patience was at Saitama's level from so many questions from the guy. In her thoughts, she tried to hold back, noting that if it wasn't for her current situation, she would definitely go up to the guy and knock him on the head. Plus, she managed to notice that there was some weird question in the middle among the guy's questions. She coughed a little and the guy sat back down. After that, the girl explained that under normal circumstances, no matter how much time one spent in the wishing world, one trial corresponded to 30 minutes in real time. Wang Ming then wondered what would happen if the trial lasted longer than 30 minutes. Xiao Wang sadly cast her eyes downward, noting that if the trial lasted longer than 30 minutes, there was a high probability that the person would no longer be able to return to the real world. Wang Ming paid attention to the expression on her face as she spoke these words to him. After that, Xiao Wang already insisted that he sign a non-disclosure agreement and then leave the building. The guy realized that he was just going to be kicked out the door for no reason. Nevertheless, he asked if they wanted to invite him to the Divine Apparitions Investigation Bureau. The girl looked at him with an expressionless expression. Wang Ming asked the girl not to look at him with that look. He explained that novels are always written like this. When a person is involved in supernatural events, they get an offer from the official bodies. The guy understood that joining the organization was his personal choice, but nevertheless he felt that they couldn't help but act according to common sense. Xiao Wang was slightly surprised by his words. She directly asked if the guy was afraid of falling victim to the Wish Monster and seeking protection from Divine Apparitions Investigation Bureau. The guy stated that it was unnecessary to be so direct about it. Even though he had no internal organs, he still didn't know exactly what methods the Wish Monster would use to deal with him. Because what if she cut him into pieces? Besides, he couldn't tell the Divine Apparitions Investigation Bureau about his current state of health. The guy was well aware that a living person without internal organs would seem like a monster to anyone. Xiao Wang asked the guy not to worry, as they would definitely organize his protection. The guy responded by asking not to worry about him, as he could just live in the Divine Apparitions Investigation Bureau building. He stated that he wasn't picky at all and was willing to sleep on the floor. The girl only explained that their organization was quite picky about people, but the guy couldn't wait to find out what her answer was. Xiao Wang decided to ask if the guy had obtained any divine sequences or any wishing world items. Wang Ming decided to find out that if he had any of these things, would he be able to live in the Divine Apparitions Investigation Bureau building? However, Xiao Wang just wanted to remind him that both divine sequences and wish items had their own price when used, so she asked that the guy should try to use as few as possible, and only if it was impossible to solve problems and survive without them. She also told him that joining the Divine Apparitions Investigation Bureau wasn't as easy as the guy thought, so the novels are a bunch of lies. After that, she decided to find out from the guy the answer to her question. She assumed that the guy's position had been attacked by enemy troops, and he was the only one who survived. At this moment, the enemies were advancing from the south, and the distance to the guy was less than 200 meters. She was curious to know how the guy would act in such a situation. Wang Ming thought that in this situation, all he could do was retreat. However, Xiao Wang had a different opinion on the matter. She stated that his answer was wrong. After all, the first thing to do was to report to the command center, tell them that the position was still held, and ask that he be carpet bombarded south 200 meters as a target, and he himself should attack the enemy to divert the enemy's attention. The girl clearly pointed out to him that they were now facing monsters born from desires, so they were facing a crisis from another world. The guy didn't even have the right words. The girl continued that the war had already started and every member of the organization was willing to sacrifice themselves at any moment. So Xiao Wang assured that when the guy was ready to pay the price for peace, they would of course invite him to join the Divine Apparitions Investigation Bureau. After a while, Wang Ming and Ling Yushu met on the steps near the entrance of the Divine Apparitions Investigation Bureau building. Wang Ming inquired about the blonde man's future plans. Showing a bit of awkwardness, Ling Yushu stated that it was his girlfriend's birthday today, so he wanted to hurry up as soon as possible to see her. Wang Ming and the cat in his arms did not expect this turn of events at all. The guy was surprised that even Ling Yushu had a girlfriend. The blonde man only grinned when he heard his words. He suddenly declared that he had not known the sweetness of soft rice, marriage of convenience, in his youth, and had mistakenly wasted his youth on upside-down rice planting, hard labor. Wang Ming was not impressed by his words. He explained that he didn't necessarily need to use other people's remedies, which literally means eating soft rice. But when he felt bad and went to the doctor said that the guy had a stomach problem. So he needed to eat more soft food or soft rice, so he thought the genius doctor was right in that regard. Wang Ming noticed that the guy had a rather sober outlook on life. In the end, he said goodbye to his godfather and went to meet his girlfriend. At the same time, the only girl who couldn't wait to play with Wang Ming was Creepy Girl. Now the only thing left next to Wang Ming was the cat. The guy looked at the cat, noticing that it had been wandering around the streets all the time, and it seemed to have a skin disease on its body in addition to the cigarette burns. With sadness in his heart, he said that since he had decided to take the cat in, he should spare no expense for the cat's necessary expenses. Wang Ming seems to have forgotten that he didn't show up for work today, so he may no longer have a job, and he and the cat will be homeless. What do you think of this story? Should we do part 11 of this manhwa? And that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you would like to see a sequel, please like, subscribe to the channel, and leave your wishes in the comments. You can also subscribe to Telegram to know about new videos. Bye everybody.